All right, everyone, welcome into the NHL trade deadline live coverage here live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Trevor Getzlaf, as always. If you're a fan of CUTV, you might recognize some of us here from the Forechecking show. This show will be uploaded to Forechecking later on, but for now, we're going to keep this rolling, free-flowing, right here live to cover all the trades going on right here at the trade deadline today on Monday, April 12th, 2021. As always, I'm Trevor Getzlaf, Doug Glackey beside us. He'll be quarterbacking most of this show today, taking over the control of the show, along with Scotty here, Nolan Beisline, Peyton Charlinger, John and Sakaguchi. We are all here as usual. We have some special guests that will be popping in and out of the show from time to time as the day goes on. This will be a show up until about 4:30, 5 o'clock at the latest here. So there'll be some other guests popping in and out, but just covering all the trades that have already happened in the NHL so far this season, how it affects different things, and the trades that are still yet to come. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started, talk about some of the ones that have already taken place before any more come in. So, Doug, take it away.
All right, so we're going to wait to talk about the Penguins because I have somebody coming on very soon here to come help us break down everything that has to go on with Jeff Carter being a Pittsburgh Penguin. But the biggest one that I'm excited about is David Riddick being traded from Calgary to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Toronto squeezes him into their salary cap. The Flames retain 50%. He's only making 1.375 against the cap for the rest of the year for the Maple Leafs. And that's a fairly solid backup option for Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell's been fantastic this year. He's currently holding an 11-0 record on the season. And they still have Frederik Andersen on LTIR. And I think by the end of today, we're going to see Freddie get moved somewhere because his contract, although his cap hit is $5 million and rather steep, his contract is very front loaded. And whenever he signed his contract, it was so front loaded to the point that now he's only like a $1 to $2 million salary. So the owner of an organization bringing Frederik Andersen onto their team wouldn't have to pay him much. So thoughts on that?
I guess it really does help that, like you said, like his contract's like super front loaded. A lot of his contracts already been paid. So I could definitely see him being on the move. There's a lot of teams that need a goalie. And so you said he's still on the IR though, right? Do you know how long he's going to be on the IR?
They still have him on their LTIR just to continue to accrue cap space, just like they have Riley Nash on LTIR. They just acquired Riley Nash from Columbus on Thursday night for like a conditional 7th. And the reason that they still have Freddie on LTIR is because they're allowed to go over the cap expenditure of the amount of players they have on LTIR. So they can ride that for a little bit and allow that to help them get some big pieces. I know they already got Nick Foligno, and they're still looking for a defenseman potentially. There's been a lot of talk about Jamie Oleksiak potentially going to Toronto and playing on that third pairing with Zach Bogosian. So who knows? We might see that by the end of the day.
Another thing too, Dougie, just to build off the thing with Frederik Andersen, if they do end up moving him, it's going to be on Andersen's terms. He's got a modified no trade clause, so we'll see what Andersen's willing to do. Should he be put on the should he be traded around today?
Yeah, that is a good thing to keep in mind, Scotty. Now we're going to take a wide left turn here. I knew this was going to happen the moment we started talking about trades, but this is a report from TSN's Pierre LeBrun. The Chicago Blackhawks have apparently acquired Adam Gaudette from the Vancouver Canucks. So we're unsure of a return yet, but it seems like Gaudette is Vancouver bound. Boys, let's get into it. What are we thinking here?
Well, I'm reading a report right now, Dougie. It says that Matt Highmore is the forward that's coming in return for Gaudette right now. So that's from Kevin Weeks at the NHL Network. So
very interesting 1-for-1 trade right there.
That'll be interesting to see, I think, because for Gaudette going to the Blackhawks and not coming from Vancouver, it'll be interesting to see if he'll have to sit out or whatnot just due to the Canucks' problems at the moment with COVID. And, if he was one of the players or whatnot, could be something that, could be a little bit down the road until he could play.
He was one of the players that was on the COVID absence list. So yeah, it may be a little bit before Gaudette makes his Blackhawks debut, but nonetheless, he is.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw or if I missed it. Because was listening to something from TSN here, but Bob McKenzie just tweeted out that Matthew Highmore is looking like he's going to be the partner that goes to Vancouver from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did have that earlier, but them trading Matthew Highmore is very interesting because he was playing in the Chicago bottom six a lot this year, and I feel like that means that Gaudette's going to just slot in at that fourth line center role. And I think that that's rather perfect for him because he was playing a lot of third line minutes in Vancouver and not really getting favorable matchups and getting caved in from time to time. I know that his metrics aren't the prettiest and that a lot of people, I know there was a time in life where a lot of people wanted him to come and be the third line center in Pittsburgh. But really, I think that playing a limited role here in Chicago where he can get more favorable matchups, kind of find himself a little bit. I think this is a really good trade for the Blackhawks. And he seems like one of those players that if they were to get into the playoffs, that would randomly just pop off and have like a really good little run for himself, similar to how like Vinny Hinostroza did the last time they were in the playoffs. Andrew Shaw when they were winning the Cups, guys like that. He has that weird like Dave Bolin type energy where he can come in and have a big playoff moment or two.
Welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
All right. So right now we got Nick Verlansky in here from the Tip of the Iceberg podcast. I was just on their podcast last night and we had breaking news in the middle of it. Jeff Carter is now a Pittsburgh Penguin. Nick, what are your thoughts after sleeping on it, waking up this morning, looking through Twitter? I know that it's really grown on me since the deal was announced and want to get your thoughts on it.
It's funny because when that happened in the middle of our live stream, we were about done. So I was pretty exhausted at probably 11 o'clock at night last night. And I kind of blacked out, to be completely honest. I couldn't remember what I had said prior to the trade being made and was trying to kind of recoup all of that. And you were obviously there, so I probably felt the same things. But at the time that the trade was made, I looked at it and said, you know what? It depends on what we gave up. And now learning that it is a third and fourth round conditional draft pick in 2 different years, I'm not upset at it. And I think that he's a player that is going to help the Penguins bottom six. But I also think that we have to be wary of the fact that he is a 36-year-old and we can't, hopefully don't see a repeat of what we saw last year with Patrick Marleau as a Pittsburgh Penguin. But the ceiling is really low for him, or I should say the floor is really low for him to kind of quell expectations of him coming to the Pittsburgh Penguins because of a team that has already been in the top 5 in scoring in the NHL this season with all these injuries. If he can help that at all, that's going to be success.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Nick. The big thing that I've been kind of like going back and forth with myself on is the fact that he was playing top 6 minutes in LA. And it wasn't like he was playing with favorable line mates either. His most common line mates for this year were Andreas Athanasiou and Blake Lizotte.
Oh, God.
And yeah, and the talent level between those two and potentially playing with Jason Zucker or an Evan Rodriguez or Brandon Tanev is just night and day. I think that this could be a really good fit for Carter. He's still a really good volume shooter. I could see him potentially getting top power play minutes whenever everybody does come back. But I think this is a good acquisition. Reminds me of one of those nice depth deals the Penguins would make whenever they were going for the Cups in 16 and 17. And really just hoping that it works out and it's a seamless transition for Jeff Carter here in Pittsburgh.
I also like it too. Oh.
Go ahead, Peyton.
Okay. I also like it too because, like, even though the Penguins were a very experienced organization, Jeff Carter, he's had his time with some championship rings. That's also some veteran leadership that this team needs. And because, we got some young guys on this roster that don't know what it really takes. Jeff Carter knows what it takes. Sidney Crosby knows what it takes. Malkin, the list keeps going on. And, that's just more leadership that we're going to need if we're going to make a big push this year. And I honestly think we could do it. If we play our cards right and they stay healthy, I really think that this team could make some noise.
Yeah, like I was going to say there, Nick, you made a great point just about the whole thing about, we don't want to have a Patrick Marleau 2.0 in this case with Jeff Carter. And that's why I'm kind of 50-50 on the deal. On one hand, you do see, okay, he is an experienced player. He's obviously got the Cup experience. Probably one of the reasons why Ron Hextall brought him in, because those two won together when they were in Los Angeles. But at the same time, it's like, okay, he is that old, and we've seen how we bring in those old depth pieces, and all of a sudden now, okay, the guy's not working out, and then what happens? Do you see what we've seen with how Sullivan handles those veteran players too? We talked about in the first episode I did with you guys how Patrick Marleau was in the lineup for every one of those 4 playoff games against Montreal when he clearly wasn't the best option. So if Carter doesn't pan out the way we hope he does, is Sullivan going to be able to say, okay, you know what, Jeff, we got to put someone else in there who's more capable. We got to go with like a Freddie Goudreau or a Radims or a Zahorna or someone like that instead of keeping him in the lineup. So, it's just a huge dice roll in that sense. But, the potential is definitely there for Jeff Carter to be a decent depth piece here in Pittsburgh, and hopefully, it'll result in a deep playoff run for the Penguins.
Yeah, I'm just going to hop in quick, put in the earbud just that way I could listen to some NHL Network as well. Sound like Toronto Maple Leafs looking possibly to move one of the young prospects from their system. And one of the big names is Timothy Liljegren, one of the names possibly being moved.
That is very interesting there, Nolan. I'm not really sure what they would be looking to move Liljegren for, because with like the defenseman available, it seems like Matthias Ekholm might not move due to the fact that Nashville is still fairly in good playoff contention. And I'm not really sure. That's an interesting one. I think I could see the Maple Leafs potentially getting in on Josh Manson. It's just a matter of, do they want a right-handed defenseman? Right. Do they want another right-handed defenseman? Because for so long it was they don't have right-handed defensemen, and now they have quite a few very good viable options. I mean, Justin Hull has been fantastic on that second pairing with Jake Muzzin this year, and TJ Brody seems like one of the better partners that Morgan Riley's had in recent memory. And I just had this odd feeling that they won't take Zach Bogosian out of the lineup. But I would say it would be a night and day difference between Bogosian and Manson on that third pairing. It's just a matter of how do they make the money work and what's the cost going to be. I know that the Maple Leafs, they're open to moving Liljegren. I know that I've heard a lot about their first round pick this year, Rodion Amirov, potentially being on the move, because I feel like the outlook for Kyle Dubas is, I'm willing to move anyone that isn't Rasmus Sandin or Nick Robertson. And I'm totally with him on that, And another guy you can bunch into that too is, I don't know what his value is with how long he's been in the league now, but Travis Dermott really doesn't have a place on the NHL roster right now with the Maple Leafs. He could easily be someone who could be a sweetener to the pot in a deal. So we're going to have to stay tuned on that.
Building off what you said, Dougie, about just defensemen that are on the market. Apparently there's been a lot of interest for Alex Goligoski as of late. The market's really started to heat up for him. The Winnipeg Jets were a team name that came up as far as interest was concerned there. So we'll see if the Coyotes will be moving around go-go here soon.
One other one quick.
Jeez.
Just want to hop in quick. And I know this could relate to TK a little bit. Avalanche looking for a big trade. What they're reporting, trying to, according to Dave Pagnotta, basically just trying to pull off a big deal with some sort of team.
We already got Devin Dubnyk, which is a solid backup for Grubauer, since Francois is, as Doug said, practically dead. But They just got rid of Greg Pattern with that trade too. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you look at the Colorado Avalanche roster. I mean, when you look at their roster, you're like, man, this team looks way too good on paper to even need anybody else. But then you look at the Bruins, which I know we really didn't touch on a whole lot. You look at the Bruins, they go grab Taylor Hall, which they obviously don't really need him either. But hey, I mean, anybody can be a good grab for Colorado. But the way I look at it is, you better go get somebody that has the right chemistry for the team, because the team chemistry with right now looks good with Colorado. And I don't want you to bring in somebody that is absolute garbage to the chemistry and screw it all up with the Lions. So we'll see who they end up bringing in. But that's my take on it.
I think somebody who could – Johnny, go ahead.
I'm going to bring this up real quick. So it looks like Edmonton and New Jersey are in trade talks right now. That would send Kulikov from the Devils to the Oilers for a conditional pick, but nothing has been completely done yet. And that's from Gordon Miller of TSN. Your thoughts on that, guys?
I just think it's hilarious how every single year the Oilers screw this up on defense. They always never go for like the proper option. Like every single year, man. It always happens. So like real quick, round of applause for the Edmonton Oilers, who are going to have Chris Russell and Dmitry Kulikov most likely playing on a pairing together.
I was about to mention that too. How do you guys think about that? Dmitry Kulikov going to the Edmonton Oilers, and I think New Jersey would be getting a couple picks back. What do we think about that?
Well, actually, looking at it right now, I just pulled up their depth chart on Cap Friendly. It seems like he would most likely slot into their third pairing. It would be Kulikov and Ethan Bear, which I think that could work. I don't think that's a bad pairing. Kind of get something going similar to what they have with that top pairing of Darnell Nurse and Tyson Barrie. I know that Nurse and Barrie have been playing really well together this year. I mean, as of right now, this really flew under the radar for me, but Tyson Barrie has 35 points in 42 games. So
that's not bad at all.
No, that's like borderline Norris numbers for a year like this, boys. Like
that
is
very good.
Especially for the money he signed for too, when you think about it.
Yeah, like let me see what he's making right now. He's only making 3.75. That's unreal value for Edmonton right there.
Yeah.
Real quick here, just an update from Andy Strickland. Getzlaf told the Ducks a couple days ago that he'd consider a trade to the Golden Knights. So just something to keep a lookout for if they do end up putting Getzlaf on the market there.
I also have heard rumors about him going to Pittsburgh as well.
Dan Kingerski of Pittsburgh Hockey Now has been banging that drum all morning. So it seems like that he's trying to wish into existence. And also here, I don't know if any of you guys mentioned before I came on, but according to Pierre LeBrun, Dallas claims Sammy Vatanen off of waivers from New Jersey. So another New Jersey defenseman. Like I said, I'm not sure if you guys mentioned that or not yet.
We mentioned it before the show started, but yeah, you're good.
We didn't even get into that yet. So let's get into these waiver claims real quick. Sammy Vatanen, like Nick said, on his way to Dallas from New Jersey, and Victor Mete claimed off waivers by the Ottawa Senators. The Mete one's the most interesting one for me because Mike Riley just departed via trade to Boston, and seems like Victor Mete would be a perfect person to slot into that second pairing on a pair with Artem Zub. What do you guys think?
Oh, I was focused on these numbers. Boston Taylor Hall's about to be wearing number 71. But what were you saying?
That's very bizarre. But
I hate that.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. But I'm just gonna have to add to the collection of Taylor Hall jerseys that I'm going on right now.
Doug, you have gotten quite the collection of jerseys from just Taylor Hall jerseys in general, but your jersey collection is quite impressive compared to mine.
Yeah, it's crazy. I kind of went wild during COVID, so
you and I both did, I think. I mean, I'm wearing a Derek England Knights jersey right now with an Ilya Kovalchuk Kings jersey sitting here in front of me.
Okay.
So.
All right, so I just want to get into this thing that was just sent to me. I'm going to read it real quick and see who is reporting it. It has something to do with Ryan Getzlaf. So it's John Hoven from Mayor's Manor. It says in Pittsburgh, Hextall and team president Brian Burke are said to be now focusing their interests on Anaheim's Ryan Getzlaf. Allegedly, Burke, who was the Ducks GM when they won the Stanley Cup in 2007, is waiting to see if his former center will waive his no-movement clause to come to the Penguins. Even if the 35-year-old agrees to play for the Penguins over the final month of the season and through the playoffs, he's on an expiring deal and could return to Anaheim in just a few short months. What do we think?
So he would literally pull a Patrick Marleau, basically.
Exactly. He would pull a Patty Marleau and just go right back to San Jose. Or go back right back to Anaheim, rather.
So go ahead.
The money's going to be interesting because he's making 8.3 right now. Even at 50%, I feel like that's a little too steep for the Penguins' wallets at this current moment in time, especially with just adding Jeff Carter last night. So we'd need a third team in there to be a little stockbroker for us and maybe eat it down to around like 2.8, 2.9, maybe 3 million. And this is an interesting thing because I know I hinted at it earlier, but Jeff Carter is such a high volume shooter in the slot that would make him a perfect winger option for Evgeny Malkin. So you could do McCann, Malkin, and Carter, and then when fully healthy, your third line could be Zucker, Getzlaff, and Kasperi Kapanen. I mean, that's crazy deep. That's crazy depth. My only worry, and Nick and I were texting about this back and forth this morning, my only worry would be, what would it do to the team chemistry? Would it throw it out of whack? Would it make it better? You know, that's a big gamble, and I don't know. What do you guys think on that? Do you think it would help the Penguins more than it would hurt them, or hurt them more than it would help?
Team chemistry is definitely a huge issue, especially around this time. You have to take that in consideration. If you don't, you're just ignorant, honestly. And you know that's whenever you bring up trades, you have to take that in consideration. Now, with Ryan Getzlaff coming to Pittsburgh, would that help or hurt? I feel like it could help. But then again, it also could hurt it. You know, I'm more thinking about, since we already have Jeff Carter, I don't know, maybe Getzlaff. You know, they've been rivals for a while. It could help, could hurt, depends. I don't know. But I mean, they're both older, so I feel like they could work some differences out and play for a common goal for the Penguins. But you know, like I said, you never really know until it actually happens.
Yeah, and I think the wildest part of all of this is that, like, low key, Sidney Crosby is just going full on LeBron James right now, and they're trying to acquire just people who he won the gold medal with in 2010, like at will. Like last year, we had Patrick Marleau come in. You know, it's almost making me wonder, like, what's Rick Nash doing? Is he healthy? Can he skate? Like, do you want to come play second power play minutes? Do you want to make my dreams come true?
I was about to say, we resurrect Jerome Getzlaff from retirement and bring him back to this team again.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, that'd be Crosby, Rick Nash, and Getzlaff as your top unit and with us and Gensel
with Malkin. Dude. So that's actually a funny thing. I have no idea where my Jerome McGinley t-shirt is from when he was here.
I need to go find mine too. I don't know where the devil I put that thing.
I think it's probably in someone else's home via Goodwill.
Guys, real quick, this came in from Pierre LeBrun. Flyers and Scott Lawton's camp are still engaged in contract talks. Flyers also taking calls from teams on him. It could go down to the wire as far as Scott Lawton's concerned. Doug, I know you were kicking tires on Scott Lawton becoming a Penguin. Obviously, Jeff Carter may have thrown a little monkey in the wrench in terms of how that's going to work out. But what do you think about Scott Lawton potentially going onto the market and then potentially finding a new team to play at? What would be some destinations you think he could end up at?
That's a very interesting little thing there. I think he'd be a good fit on a team like Dallas, honestly. I feel like he plays that style that Dallas plays kind of reminds you of like, in terms of just like grit, it kind of reminds you of like a Blake Como in a sense, like where he can lay a big hit and, you know, have a nice goal here and there. I think if you're going to get Scott Lawton, it's going to be out west. I feel like most of the teams in the East that were looking to make a move already got their guy, and he's off the table. I would say for a good bit of the Eastern Conference contenders.
Hey, Doug.
What's up?
So in our live stream on YouTube, I'm monitoring that as we're streaming as well. We had someone comment a trade that they think would be a decent trade. So I'm going to post this in our chat on here so you guys can look at it real quick. If you want to discuss it and say whether it'd be good or not for himself as viewing our show, you can. It's in the everyone chat right now on Zoom.
Okay, that's okay. All right. I mean, Isaac Lundstrom is nothing to play around about. He's a nice prospect. He's starting to develop really nicely in the Anaheim system. So I'm looking. Sammy Niku.
If someone can like announce the trade to the viewers who aren't seeing the chat,
right.
And then we can.
So I want to look and see who commented on it first, so that I can like give them a shout out before I do anything.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and read the trade out while you look.
It says his name says It says Jacko, maybe Jacko.
Okay.
I don't know what his name actually is, but that's what he has on YouTube.
Cool.
So we'll go with Jekko on YouTube has commented the Ducks would receive Sammy Niku, a first-round pick in 2021, Matthew Perreault, and Jansen Harkins, and then the Jets would receive Josh Manson at a 50% retained salary and Isaac Lundstrom. Thoughts?
I like it. I think it's a very interesting little trade proposal. To anyone that's viewing this, please send those in because we all love that type of thing. I feel like you guys all know I'm a huge cap friendly guy and I'm always like making mock trades. So that's pretty interesting. I like it. The only thing I'm unsure of is if the Ducks would be willing to part with Isaac Lundstrom. That's my only thing.
Yeah, Isaac Lundstrom's a nice piece for the Ducks.
Yeah, and nice especially like if they do move Getzlaf today, he would definitely be a candidate to receive more. I would say more elevated playing time. I mean, that's what I would think. But I like that. I think getting Sammy Niku would be an interesting addition for the Ducks as well, because they're a team I feel like that's so thin on defense organizationally in terms of like having quality prospects that like getting somebody like Sammy Niku, or even I'll even go farther, maybe a Ville Heinola from the Jet system would be a perfect addition to their prospect pool.
I'm just gonna hop in quick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Peyton. I'll let you finish and I'll say because it's different.
I actually like Josh Manson going to Winnipeg. I really do like that. I feel like Josh Manson could tighten up that defensive core for Winnipeg. And if the Jets actually did get Isaac Lundstrom, I think he would fit perfectly there. I feel like he would be a nice third, fourth line center. He could eventually work his way up to the top six. But yeah, I really like Isaac Lundstrom for the Jets and Josh Manson. I think it's a pretty good trade.
So going back to the Oilers Devils trade, it looks like Kulikov's trade is just being held up due to immigration status within his passport. And it also looks like a conditional fourth round pick would be included in that trade as well.
That would be a fourth rounder too also.
Could be. Yeah, so it could be one of the reasons why that trade hasn't fully gone through yet.
Yeah, I think that's fairly interesting in the sense of, and my thing is like with Kulikov is how long is it going to take him to get that sorted out, especially just like with us living in a COVID world. It's an interesting conundrum, but I think it's a fairly decent pickup for the Oilers. I think he's somebody who could play well for them. But, there was talk earlier that the Oilers were in on Jamie Alexiak, and I feel like that seemed like a slam dunk for him. But the more I think about it, the more I think that Jamie Alexiak's asking price is rather high because he's been playing very well this year. I know there were a lot of people within like the Maple Leafs side of the media that that was willing to give up a first round pick for Jamie Alexiak, oddly enough. But kind of crazy there. So Nick, we're going to throw it to you real quick. I just feel like we need to get it going in the sense of, do you think the Penguins can make any other moves today?
I think it's probably going to happen, especially considering the timing of when that Jeff Carter trade happened. And yeah, I understand that Boston also made the Taylor Hall trade and then called it quits. But the Penguins acquiring a guy like Jeff Carter last night for what they gave up as well, and the pieces that they've kind of already hinted that might be going the other way on trade deadline day, I feel like Hextall and Burke have something up their sleeve and something else that they want to get done. Whether or not that happens before 3, I'm not sure. I mean, we said right before the Carter trade came out yesterday that we didn't want to see any trades. We thought that the Penguins were fine if they just held pat. So I'm interested to see if they go out with something else or if they stay pat. But I think they have something else up their sleeve. Otherwise, they would not have tried to get that done in the wee hours of the morning last night like they did.
Doug, I don't know if we talked about it yet or not. Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I don't know if we mentioned yet or not, but since we were on, since we were talking to Nick there, if we touched the Delorier trade yet or not, go ahead and touch that too. Since Nick
so, yeah, that's something that I'll just lead into real quick. Andy Strickland reported earlier this morning that the Penguins are still in on Nick Delorier. I know last night, whenever we were recording Tip of the Iceberg, we all kind of came to the consensus that we all dodged a bullet, and I guess that bullet's about to go back in. So, what are you thinking here?
Keep him, please. I don't want him. So just keep him in Anaheim.
We don't need any of the amount of time we have on the lineup right now.
Insert that scene from The Office here, where the guy's going, no,
God, please, no,
that right here.
We've walked
God, please,
because
no.
I do not want to see him in a Penguins jersey. Please.
To be completely honest, at this point, if I had the means, I would shut down all communications between Pittsburgh and Anaheim. Just at least for today, just stop talking. I don't want Getzlaff. I don't want Delorier. I don't even want to hear Rickard Rakell's name because that's just so far into the wind that it's not going to happen. Just shut down communication. Somebody lock Brian Burke in a room with Jim Rutherford and let those two just talk and try to make a fake fantasy trade. I don't want to see
Just stay on cap friendly. Just stay on cap friendly. They can make some mock trades.
Yeah, just give them a nice little burner cap friendly account and they can just trade Malkin to Florida for like
Owen Tippett.
No, for Keith Yandel 1-for-1. But
stop it.
Yeah.
Stop
but,
it.
I know. But anyway.
Nightmares are coming true.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what they have up their sleeves because with the fact that there hasn't been a press conference yet or anything from Berkey or Hextall, it makes me believe that they're working on something and it's something rather substantial. I know last night we all were kind of like on I know this is a baseball trade deadline thing, but we were on a little hug watch with Pierre-Olivier Joseph being pulled from the lineup in Wilkes-Barre. That was all illness related, but I was very much prepared to see Marcus Pettersson being a healthy scratch last night for the Penguins and potentially being on his way out somewhere. But Nick, I think you'd agree with me that if they were going to trade for anybody to make this team like substantially better outside of a rental, Pettersson would probably be the guy to go. It's just a matter of where.
Yeah, I would agree. We got a couple people with hands up, so I'll let them go.
All right,
So,
Johnny, I know you had
just
your
got
hand
a
up.
tweet in here. I get to pull up. So it looks like the Sharks and the Lightning are in cahoots with a trade. It's just coming in now from
I was going to say that. We all had it. We all had the same thing.
Well, Peyton, if you have it up, go ahead and tell them what the trade is because mine's being a little slow.
So it hasn't happened yet, but the Sharks are looking to trade Frederick. I think it's Frederick Clayson, if that's how you pronounce it. The Tampa Bay Lightning for goalie prospect Magnus Chorna or Charna or whatever. That would be a good trade for the Sharks. Definitely, they absolutely need goaltending. Like, it's not even funny. They need goaltending.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind that trade at all.
Who knows if this Magnus Trona guy's even anything, but like adding to
it's
the
worth
organization.
A shot,
depth,
though. It's worth a shot.
It's worth it.
They have to take a chance, Doug. They have to. They have nobody.
These are the trades I hate on deadline day, though, where it's like, you know, I know that Penn's Twitter and Leafs Twitter is going to love me saying this, but like, we don't need to hear that Mark Donk got traded for Buzz Flibbit. We don't care that much. We need the bombs. We need the nukes. We don't need random guy for random guy.
Yeah, looks like from some stats from Elite Prospects, this past season he went 7-11 for the University of Denver. So
that goalie prospect?
That goalie prospect, yeah.
But I like knowing that he's an NCAA guy, though.
Yeah, last year he went 16-6-4. So could be some move. Also, one of the things just want to include quick because it's a big name here today. Montreal is one of the front runners for Mike Hoffman. Thoughts?
Wow.
Mike Hoffman.
Bizarre.
Mike Hoffman back to Canada. Let's go, boys.
I think it'd be a great addition for Montreal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely considering Montreal's. Let's face it, if you're not Montreal, Toronto, Edmonton, or who am I forgetting now? That's four. You're in Winnipeg. That's it.
Yeah, Winnipeg.
You're sitting pretty because right now Calgary and the Oilers and well, I shouldn't say the Oilers. Edmonton and Toronto, Winnipeg and Montreal all are looking like the four teams that are going to make it out of that Scotia North Division for the playoffs. But you want to make sure you can make your roster better, but at the same time, don't go out spending money stupidly. But I do believe that could be a deal that would benefit the Montreal Canadiens because they are sitting in that fourth spot right now. Last time I looked at the standings. So this could indeed, I think, make the Canadiens more of a threat than what they are now.
Well, you also have to remember too that they Victor Mete got claimed off of waivers too, so they're probably looking for an upgrade for him. So Mike Hoffman, I mean, he's not the best defenseman, but I mean, I could see it definitely. I mean, I think he could fit that scheme up there pretty nicely.
Mike Hoffman's playing forward.
Mike Hoffman's a forward. You just Nick Robertson yourself there. But anyway.
Oh shoot.
It's okay. You're fine.
No, I was thinking of something. I was thinking of someone else.
It's okay.
But, I feel like an idiot. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Oh no,
Doug,
I was thinking of someone else.
I want to throw out to you too, Doug. Whenever you get a second.
The thing that I think Mike Hoffman would help with the Canadiens is they just had the Canadiens lines as of today up on Trade Center, and they have Jesperi Kotkaniemi playing left wing and not center. So they would just have Kotkaniemi go back to being that 3C and bump Eric Stahl back down in the lineup with Hoffman playing left wing somewhere in the top 9. So I think that would work well for them. But TK, what were you about to say?
I had a couple that you and I and Peyton talked about on Saturday that already happened and stuff that we wanted to touch on before any of them big ones dropped. Okay. Just to throw a couple of them out, and we can talk about whatever ones you want to. I know we talked about Eric Stahl leaving the Sabres to go to Canadiens. That already happened before. Montour heading from the Sabres to Florida. And then, of course, David Savard from Columbus to Tampa Bay. And then, of course, Palmieri and Zajac heading to the Islanders, too. So any of them we want to talk about there, I know those are already all happened as well.
we will talk about David Savard and Devin Dubnyk real quick. We're going to save the Islanders for Gabe, but the Tampa Bay Lightning getting David Savard is rather interesting. The fact that they were able to bolster their lineup with their cap situation being what it is rather impressive to me. And, you know, David Savard's the perfect addition. I know they were looking for somebody to play that Braden Coburn role since he departed for Ottawa and is now a New York Islander. Since he, because they need that big physical presence on the second or third pairing to just be a shutdown type of guy, and that's the thing. I mean, similar with Toronto, with how hard it is to play against Muzzin and Hall. It's hard to go up against Hedman and Sergachev every night, and it would be nice to get a second wave of a defensive pairing that's hard to play against as well, and it's very shut down. And I think that they're going to get that with David Savard. I feel like right now, okay, he would be playing with McDonough, which is a really solid little draw of a partner here. So let's go through the defense pairings of the Tampa Bay Lightning here real quick. It's Victor Hedman and Eric Chernak. That's a very physical top pairing. And then McDonough and Savard. And then you got the Twin Towers up on the third pairing with Mikhail Sergachev and Cal Foote. It's a very spicy looking defense.
Yeah, that's a pretty stacked up defense line up there.
Yeah, the addition of Savard kind of makes me think that they're trying to recapture what they had last year with Bogosian going into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They liked getting that veteran presence, that veteran big body that plays the style that a Bogosian or a Savard plays. So it kind of really, to me, those wires are connecting to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. Kind of get that like Bogosian, Luke Shen thing going. He was another big one who was a big factor in the playoffs for them. But let's go over the details of that trade real quick. That was a 3-teamer. It was rather interesting. I know that David Savard, he had 75% of his cap hit eaten by both Columbus and Detroit. So what it was the Blue Jackets acquired a first and a third round draft pick from the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that was for David Savard at 50% retained. Then there was another 25% retained from the Detroit Red Wings. And they got that for a 4th round pick from Tampa Bay. And the Lightning acquired David Savard at 75% retained and depth defenseman Brian Lashoff from Detroit. He's somebody who, he's been in their system, in the Red Wings system for years, but I really think that he could be a decent depth piece for them. Maybe be on their taxi squad, be a good presence. But yeah, I think that's a really good trade for the Lightning. The fact that they were able to get that with hardly anything, in terms of with anything in terms of the cap. Obviously, they gave up a ton of assets, but with the way the Lightning are, I mean, those draft picks, it's like lottery tickets. You don't really have to deal with it and focus on drafting until, a couple years down the line. And whenever you're able to find draft steals like Braden Point and Anthony Cirelli in the rounds that they were able to get them in the draft, if you trade a first round pick, it's really no harm, no foul.
I'm finally going to get off my Kulikov trend. Deal is finally done. 4th round pick for Kulikov. Edmonton makes playoffs, turns into a 3rd round. Deal finally complete.
So that's basically looking at that North Division.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad for Dmitry Kulikov at all, I feel. He's a decent third pairing defenseman. But let's talk about Devin Dubnyk going from the San Jose Sharks to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Greg Pattern and a 5th round pick. Now, the Avs, they've had a lot of backup goaltending issues this year with, they were running with Hunter Miska for a little bit. who was not great. And then they had made a trade for Jonas Johansson from the Sabres, who, I mean, he was okay as their backup, but I feel like he's more better suited as a third goalie. You know, somebody that you just have ride around on your taxi squad or in your minor league system in case you need them. But I really like this Devin Dubnyk acquisition for the Avalanche. He's a really underrated type of pickup for them. This year he had a 318 goals against average and a 898 save percentage. So that's not great, but that you got to keep in mind he was playing on a pretty bad San Jose Sharks team. And I feel like with the defense the Colorado Avalanche has, that could really help bolster Dubnyk's numbers and have him have like a little comeback for this stretch run.
Boys, he turned into a suitcase or what the past couple of seasons. They're just shipping him all over the country. But that is a good deal for Colorado for the simple fact that he was acquired to help their goaltender Grubauer just get some rest before the playoffs. And that's in the last couple of games. If he can hold fort and let them stay in the positioning they are and give Grubauer a blow, that's all they're looking to do right now, because they need Grubauer 100% healthy for the playoffs, because Dubnyk is not going to see the light of day once the playoffs come around.
Agreed.
No. And the nice thing about what they gave up was they just gave up Greg Pattern, which is they got him from Minnesota in that Ian Cole deal that went down earlier in the year. And Pattern wasn't even playing. I think he was a taxi squad player. So to clear that cap hit off the books and only giving up a 5th round pick to do it and getting Devin Dubnyk in return, that's rather thrifty for Joe Sakic and company out there in Colorado.
Yeah, and something I just want to mention quick. I've seen a lot of tweets about it today. You know, this trade deadline is going to be big, you know, for a team that sure isn't in the league yet, but the Seattle Kraken, you know, they're going to come to this end of the season here going into an expansion draft, and, you know, they're going to really want to pay attention to, you know, who's available. I've seen already today on NHL Network, they were talking about the Kraken, and one of the big teams was the Minnesota Wild with their defensemen. You know, there's about 5 or 6 guys that make over $3 million for the Wild already on defense. So, you know, just like that right away, Kraken are looking for, you know, quality defensemen to try to do what Vegas did in their first year.
Well, we got to look at the I also saw on NHL today as well. July 17th is the final date where they have to have the list submitted on what teams are protected by each team. And then the 21st, of course, being the expansion draft right before the regular draft. So we're excited to see Seattle, as I'm wearing. So
I got one thing as well from Pierre LeBrun. All signs point to Matthias Janmark ending up in Vegas. Still working on details. No done. Not the deal is not done yet, but looks like it's heading that way.
That might take them out of the running for Getzlaff, just in terms of Janmark being a center, and they would already have that center depth option at a much cheaper rate. So that might be interesting. Ryan Getzlaff may be just standing pat and going nowhere. So, and if it's, you know, the big thing is if it's public knowledge that he was going to waive for Vegas, that means he was probably going to just only waive for Vegas. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, I feel like there's been a decent amount of action. I'm surprised that there's been this many trades already, just 1 hour into this. It's very exciting. And man, I just can't even believe that we're like in this. Also, Jim Rutherford's on my TV right now, and I'm scared. So that's something interesting. They have him on their trade center coverage this year, TSN. And I've been seeing some quotes on Twitter that have just been comedic gold. Like he said, you have to worry about the person you're acquiring more than the assets you're giving up. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, and Nick, I think I hinted this last night where I said, I'm totally fine with Jeff Carter being a Penguin because Jim 100% would have given up a 1st round pick or a top prospect to get Nick Foligno.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Jim Rutherford likes trading 1st round picks like everybody else likes breathing. So it wouldn't have been surprising, but it's nice to the fact that last night I think I even said to you, I said, I hope one of the conditions is the Penguins have to win the Stanley Cup. Well, one of the conditions was the Penguins have to make it to the Stanley Cup. So it is funny that they're using him on Trade Center for TSN, but he's probably chomping at the bit, wishing he was in the action, because you know that he loves sitting down with his Fiji water, having 18 blackberries on and trying to make a deal, trying to give somebody a first round pick. Doesn't matter who's coming back, but he wants to give away that first round pick.
Yeah, like 100%, especially now that they didn't have a first for this year. It was going to be Nathan Legare for Nick Foligno, and it was going to be awful. But the conditions on that Carter trade's interesting. The 4th round pick in 2023 upgrades to a 3rd if Carter plays in at least 50 games during the 21-22 season. And that's interesting because there's a lot of suspicion that after this run, Jeff Carter might just retire, because they already went into like the cap recapture penalty if Carter were to retire at the end of this year, and the Penguins would actually gain $762,000 in cap space from him retiring. So that's a nice little 4D chess play there by Hextall. They'd have a quality bottom 6 option if he does choose to play next year. And if not, they gain a substantial amount of cap space in a year where they're going to need it.
And it's funny you mentioned first round draft picks and Nick Foligno. We talked a little bit about Timothy Liljegren being a guy that could possibly be on the move. Maybe that's Kyle Dubas's way of trying to recoup some of the assets that he lost picking up Nick Foligno. I'm not exactly sure where Liljegren fits in their organization right now. I know that they're definitely down on him compared to where they were a couple seasons ago. So who knows? Maybe that's just trying to be a draft capital recoup right there.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, they're mentioning it earlier. So far already 4 seasons in a row in the AHL. So clearly, not the fit there at the moment.
Yeah, do like a little like Elias Anderson type trade. So yeah, that would be pretty interesting. But yeah, it's crazy to think that the Maple Leafs are as loaded as they are going into this stretch run. Now, we don't know how this is going to work out for them, because Nick and I are both of the belief that whoever comes out of the North Division is going to get like rocked in the 2nd round, because like a lot of the teams in that division aren't good. Like they have Connor McDavid putting up like straight video game numbers right now, just due to the sake and virtue that he's playing some very bad teams right now. Like the Flames are horrible. The Senators are the Senators. And, when you play the Canucks when they're healthy and okay, Thatcher Demko can be hit or miss, and same with Holtby. So like, that's one of those things. It's crazy.
So I don't want to rain on your parade for Toronto, but there's always that chance that when they start off again and they look hot coming in the playoffs, and then they don't make it through the 1st round. We've seen that multiple times.
And Doug, while everything kind of quiet at the moment, at least for these trades, I know we've talked about it a little bit, and I kind of want to talk about it before I had to dip here a little while. Me being a Washington Capitals fan, we've talked a little bit, and we've talked about Michael Kempney a little bit. And do you think that's somebody that could be traded, not traded, or for your, I know you're a rival, but I know you still pay attention once in a while to the Cap. So what do you think big move could be for them, if any?
For the Capitals, I think I could see them, I said this to you this morning. I could see them totally trying to make a move for Josh Manson or Ricard Raquel. They have a couple guys that could easily be moved out. Like I could see, if it came down to getting Manson, I could see them moving Nick Jensen out to offset that cap hit and, let Manson just play with Chara. I feel like that would be a pairing that would be exceptionally tough to play against, just due to the size of both of those guys. But I really like Ricard Raquel for the Capitals. I think that he could come in and play in a second or third line capacity, find good chemistry with either Nicholas Backstrom or Lars Eller, and be that big target that the Caps have needed in recent times. But other than that, like, I know we've been talking a lot about goaltending, Nolan, with the Capitals, and I'm curious to wonder if going into today, if you think that there's any way that they make a move at all at goaltending, because, you know, a lot of the main guys that we thought they could have potentially gotten in on have been traded. Do you think they could potentially get in on maybe a Frederik Andersen or a Chris Strieger, or maybe even Jonathan Bernier from Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, at the moment, the Caps have 3 goaltenders basically up with them. You know, Vitek Vanacek, Ilya Samsonov, and then you pretty much forget about him, and you pretty much should. Craig Anderson, just down there basically in the taxi squad, just sitting there. But I think, you know, Freddie Anderson could be interesting, but I don't know if that would exactly be the move, just because, you know, for the Capitals, they probably want to see more development within Ilya Samsonov. And I know we were talking about this yesterday as well. Samsonov hasn't started 2 games in a row in his entire career, and he's played 2 seasons so far. And we saw Vitek Vanacek basically, you know, just come into the picture because of Ilya Samsonov earlier with COVID issues. You know, he came right in and stepped in 13 games in a row. So clearly they have the trust in him. You know, I think they could still maybe go after, you know, one of those other goalies, like you said, Bernier, or somebody that, you know, may not be their number 1 starter, but a number 2 that could come in and is at least has that like veteran presence. I think could be a smart move. Just because, you know, with their cap, they only freed up just over $700K yesterday with their trade of Siegenthaler to the Devils. So they're still right there on the edge. So they would definitely have to do some major cap trading, which, you know, we could see maybe Richard Panik get traded since he's down the taxi squad.
Yeah, and I think we could even see potential cap brokering there, as we have a report from Pierre LeBrun that the San Jose Sharks are going to act as a cap broker for the Vegas Golden Knights to help them acquire Matthias Janmark from Chicago.
You know, that's interesting because I feel like, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what San Jose gets out of that. If it's just going to be a draft pick or what they're going to get out of that.
Yeah, they're basically throwing around 4th and 5th round picks like it's candy right now for teams to be able to pull this off, and that's actually good for like teams that are in rebuilds, because like it gets to a point where you need both quantity and quality. Because think of it this way, like the Penguins got Brian Rust in the 3rd round, and they had to play the wait and see game with him. Finally turned into a consistent contributor at the NHL level. And now he's one of the most underrated top 6 forwards in the game. You know, maybe a team that's in desperate need of help could, you know, get a guy like that in the 4th or 5th round and, you know, really help them kind of speed up their rebuild a bit. Another guy that I think of when I say this is, Igor Sharangovich from the Devils. He was a 5th round draft pick in 2018, and he's one of their more consistent forwards this year. He has 17 points in 38 games, and he's playing with Jack Hughes right now. So like that's a big one, you know.
I feel like Doug Wilson is just trying to gain favor in the entire league right now, taking bad contracts, being a broker for teams that are cap strapped. So he's definitely trying to get some goodwill for the San Jose Sharks. But I know we were talking a little bit earlier about the Capitals. I'm not sure if their need is defense or forward as of right now. I know you guys talked a little bit about goalies, but 2 names that I've looked at that kind of fit the mold for the Capitals, and I'm not sure if it's able to work at all. I think defensively, Jamie Alexiak would be a good name for the Washington Capitals. He definitely fits the mold that they have going there. And then I don't know about Dustin Brown, but I feel like he plays a certain style that Washington likes. And I feel like if they could make it work under the cap, he'd be a guy that could really help their bottom 6. So those are just 2 names that off the top of my head, I could see Washington potentially being interested in.
Yeah, that could be.
I think we talked about Dustin Brown a little bit on Friday, last Tuesday, I believe it was, on my radio show. Doug and Nolan jumped on with me. I think Dustin Brown, I do agree with you, Nick. He is that type of player that the Caps could use. However, it's going to come down to salary cap at this one. And if they don't pull the trigger on him during the trade deadline, I feel like we could see him go in there this offseason.
And something just for the Rangers, not a trade, but the Rangers are about to sign third-round pick Zach Jones out of UMass, and that he's expected to start right away in the lineup for the Rangers after his quarantine. So
Wow,
Nice.
that's quick.
winning the national title and about to sign him and get him right in the lineup.
Hell of a
Nice. I like that a lot.
Also,
What were you gonna say, Nick?
guys, Gary just popped his head into the video real quick and wanted to say hi. I did check the stream for a minute. So, sounds good on his end, so that's always a plus.
There you go. So trade is now official. Janmark to Vegas. Vegas's second round pick is going to Chicago, and Vegas flipped their third round pick for Chicago's fifth round pick next year. So I feel like just in a vacuum, that's a lot of assets to be giving up for a player the caliber of Matthias Janmark. What do you guys think?
I mean, anytime somebody goes to Vegas, you hit that strip and you start to produce well. So,
could be
Yeah.
Janmark is a Vegas-born guy. So, it could be that little spark. I think it's, I don't know where he's going to fit in the lineup, but, I think that provides Vegas with that little bit more of stability to try to, get towards the top. If not, they're already at top. I haven't checked the standings out there yet recently, but I knew they were either one or two.
Yeah, it's pretty much between them and Colorado right now for that top spot in that division. But I think that's an interesting little pickup for the Golden Knights. He can play both left wing and center. Seems like the type of guy that would just, like Nolan said, he would just go to Vegas and just randomly thrive in a bottom six role in some capacity. I don't know, that's an interesting pickup from the Knights, and I feel like it's kind of off the wall from like what we were all expecting them to do, because I feel like every year they go for that big player, and now they're just kind of like sitting back and getting the depth pieces to play with who's in their lineup right now. But real quick on Matthias Janmark, he has 19 points in 41 games this year. It's almost a half a point per game average. I think that's a pretty solid addition to the Vegas top nine. I'm going to look at their lineup real quick here.
nothing Vegas does on trade deadline day will be worse than the first, second, and third round pick for Tomas Tatar. So
that was
Agreed.
That was absurd. That was absolutely insane whenever they did that. I could see Janmark slotting into the third line role. Right now, their third line's Alex Tuck, Thomas Nosek, and Keegan Kolesar. So I could see Janmark sliding into that right wing spot, or that left wing or right wing spot, and playing with Tuck and Nosek. Something random that I didn't even notice, their top line center right now is Chandler Stevenson. He's currently playing with Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone. And that just seems very wild and out of pocket to me.
Anytime a Capitals guy leaves Washington, they always produce. And I think this was another one the Caps really missed on. I think he easily could have been, at the time, he wasn't really a big fit. But, he wanted to get out, and clearly he's showing it here with Vegas, playing top-line minutes. So the same thing a long time ago when the Caps may have made the worst trade ever and getting rid of Philip Forsberg. Could have been maybe one of the worst trades the Caps have ever made.
Yeah, that was probably one of the craziest deadline deals that we've ever seen. Was Martin Erad for Forsberg, and wasn't it Michael Haley Somebody random like that.
That
was
was
just so
somebody-
ridiculous.
No, who?
It was
who-
Michael Latta.
Michael Latta. Yeah, Michael
Yeah.
Latta. Him for Forsberg and maybe.
It was one of those deals that we saw go down. And we're like, what?
Oh, that was more than a what?
I will never forget where I was. Nick, you're gonna laugh at this. I'll never forget where I was whenever Philip Forsberg got traded from Art Erat. I was in the auxiliary gym at Richland baseball practice when that trade went down. And I remember going back by like where the cheer mats are in the little like storage closet where we would get the bats and stuff. And I remember like hiding back there, like looking at my phone, being like, okay, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, that's definitely a throwback now, probably 7 years ago, making me feel old. That's a long time ago. It's hard to imagine that trade happened that long ago too.
Yeah,
Buddy, that was
that
was the Iginla year.
Yeah, that's true. That was back in 2013.
Yeah, that was the Iginla year. Oh my God, I feel old right now.
Year that I was still at Penn State Fayette, and we turned the club office into the Penn State Fayette campus trade center and our war room, because literally every computer that was in there was just checking every possible trade site you could think of, with the only TV on ESPN, because it's what it is. It's a small all branch campus. They ain't gonna pay for us to have the big channels. And right now, Nolan, you were talking about all the standings earlier. Currently, Colorado has a 4-point lead on Vegas right now on that Honda West, and then you could roll the dice right now on who 3, 4, and 5 are, or because that's how much Minnesota, St. Louis, and Arizona have been changing places. And then Scotia North, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Montreal. Discover Central. I don't know how, but somehow Carolina's now in the lead of that division. It's like every time I look at this division anymore, or somebody new is in that first spot. Last time I looked, it was Florida. Today, it's Carolina. The week before that, it was Tampa. I think there was a day I looked and somehow Nashville was at the top of that division. That division's a complete cluster, you know what. So I don't even know how they're going to be able to figure this one out for the playoffs, because that 4, 5, and 6 spots, just like the 3, 4, and 5 spot of the Honda West. You roll the dice. It's Nashville, Chicago, or Dallas. You take your pick. Mass Mutual East. Caps and Isles tied for first. Pittsburgh in second, which with a win would put them in a 3-way tie. I have those two would, if the Islanders and Caps would do something and to lose. Boston in fourth. Rangers to hunt on the Bruins' heels with only back like 6 spots, it looks like. And then Philly, New Jersey, Buffalo. Oh, down there in the basement. But yeah, this I think we're gonna see whoever makes some of the deals today before the 3 o'clock deadline is gonna dictate how the rest of this is gonna go.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, something whenever I stepped aside that I heard you guys were talking about that I want to talk about. Johnny, you were talking about trade deadline memories. My favorite trade deadline memory ever is being in the media suite with you the moment that Tanner Pearson got traded for Eric Branson.
Oh, don't remind me of that.
That was, guys, it was the greatest. It was an absolute electric factory of just content going down.
You're forgetting who
But,
else was out there with us when that deal went down.
Well, yeah, it was like me, you, Steve, Danny, Dylan, and Colin. And Dylan's just there like, oh, I don't know anything about hockey. And then Colin was like ready to kill both you and I. And it was just bad. It was so funny though. But
so you, me, and TK on that one.
Yeah, I forgot TK was down there. But yeah, things are getting pretty quiet right now. I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen here in the next like hour or so. But the Penguins just did their Jeff Carter jersey swap tweet, and he's wearing the number 77. So
how dare you disrespect Paul Coffey like that?
I'm very excited for this because this is going to
I have
just
to agree with Nick
absolutely.
on that one. I'm sorry, but why?
I know it's kind of cringeworthy. It's gonna just cause just an absolute fit of rage for like those people who just like their knowledge is just watching the Penguins in the 80s and 90s. And it's just perfect. We're going to make the people who think Letang sucks so angry. It's going to be just so funny. But yeah, I think it's kind of bizarre, but like what other number is he going to take? Like
previous two numbers that he wore, whenever he was with Philadelphia, he wore 17. Brian Rust
and then he wore 7 in Columbus.
7 in Columbus. Colton Sevier's wearing that one now. So I don't really think they should make a big deal about what number he wears. I mean, as great of a defenseman as Paul Coffey was in Pittsburgh, his time was pretty limited here. And I understand that he's a Hall of Famer, and, you know, he was one of the main reasons why the Pens won their first cup, but it's a jersey number. It's not like he's, you know, telling them to take 66 out of the rafters and throw it on. Like, it's not that big of a deal, or at least it shouldn't be treated as one.
Yeah. I'm just going to hop in real quick. I have to head out for a little bit. So this one's thanks for tuning in. I'll try to hop back on then towards the end and, you know, have fun with the rest. I'm sure if I see anything crazy that I don't hear you guys mention, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you know to just text me.
I got you. So have a good time.
Cool.
Nick, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you later.
So, but yeah, we have Nolan just leaving right now. We're going to have another guest pop in here. Nick, you're welcome to stay on so we can have 6 running if you want to. But oh my goodness, everything just kind of slowed down right now. And I don't really know what to do at this moment.
It's the calm before the storm. I feel like something has to happen before 3.
I'm telling you, I have a weird feeling. I'm having weird Anthony Mantha vibes right now.
I don't know if that's it.
I don't know if that's it either, but I want it. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the Penguins are getting healthier. Malkin's skating on his own. I think, you know, if you can get Malkin back rather quickly, that would be huge, like bigger than any deadline acquisition they could ever make. You know, obviously Jeff Carter's nice and all, but I wonder if they may filter back to Los Angeles if Alex Iafallo does not re-sign with the Kings. I'm curious to see if that's a possibility.
I mean, the latest on him is that they're getting closer to an extension talk in LA. So I'm not sure if Alex Iafallo is going to go anywhere. But if he does, the Penguins definitely still have a roster spot for him. It's all going to be what can you give up for him and can you get him into the cap. I think if we're going to see anything in the next hour and 39 minutes, I think we're going to see a lot more movement from that North Division, mainly because of the fact that this is the best chance that a lot of these teams are going to get to a conference final. If you look at the Maple Leafs, obviously everybody knows how they've struggled in the playoffs as of late. And then you look at a team like Edmonton and Winnipeg, that division is really up for grabs. And that's why you've seen a lot of these teams go out and try to add players. And we talked about a prospective trade that would send another defenseman to Winnipeg. I mean, when you have a guy like Connor Hellebuck and you're in a division as weak as you are, yeah, you want to give him the best opportunity he can to kind of protect him a little bit, because there's a chance that one of those teams, it's a little bit of an easier road to get to the conference final than, in my opinion, than the other 3 divisions.
Yeah, I totally agree, Nick. And the nice thing about the North Division, I've talked about this before on our Forechecking show, is there's so much elite talent within those top three teams in that North Division with Toronto, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. You know, like you have Scheifele and Dubois in Winnipeg. And then you have the big four of Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares in Toronto. And then you got the McDavid and Draisaitl show over in Edmonton. Now, I feel like the Edmonton Oilers, they need to be trying to help themselves a little more than they are right now. I think they need to do more than just Dmitry Kulikov at this moment. You know, they have Tyson Barrie putting up Norris type numbers for them. You know, Ethan Bear is still really good. There's still the potential that Evan Bouchard could come get involved into this team at some point in the next couple of weeks into the stretch run. You know, I'm going to look at their depth chart right now and see what they have, because I don't think, you know, also breaking news from Darren Dreger, ongoing back and forth negotiations between the Philadelphia Flyers and Scott Lawton. Teams with interest are of the belief that he will sign and stay in Philadelphia. So that's interesting. He's kind of off the table at this current moment in time. And so let's look at the Edmonton Oilers right now. Their top line their lines are Ennis, McDavid, Puljujärvi, and then Cahoon, Draisaitl, Yamamoto. That's an okay top six, like decent top six to an extent. But then the bottom six just gets worse. You know, you have James Neal, Gaten Haas, and Zach Kassian. That's just classic Western Conference gritty third line. And then Devon Shore, Jujhar Khaira, and Josh Archibald. Also, TK, get ready to let someone in.
Can I also make the case that
What's up?
just my personal opinion, that the Edmonton Oilers would not be in any contention whatsoever if they did not have Draisaitl McDavid.
Yep.
Well, yeah, no, not at all. But
that team would be nothing without it.
Obviously.
the truth is, they would not be in contention at all if it wasn't for this division. If they were in the division they were normally in right now, they'd be lucky to be in a wild card spot, in my opinion.
Right.
But yeah, it's craziness with how that team is. And like the numbers McDavid's putting up, it's like ridiculous. I saw a graphic from NBC the other day. The only other players in history who were able to put up that amount of points, it was Crosby, Malkin, and Lemieux. So, but right now we are joined by Smitty from around the 412. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, guys? Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you for coming on, brother. But anyways, we are currently kind of at a standstill right now because trades have kind of stopped happening. We're just kind of like talking about everything going on. But since you're a Pittsburgh-centric sports podcaster, what are you thinking about Jeff Carter right now? Like, what are your initial thoughts after having a few hours to digest it?
I don't mind it. I think it gives them some versatility, whether they want to use him as the 3C. And that would be, keeping McCann with a healthy Gino and a healthy Kapanen when those guys come back. Or maybe he plays that opposite wing with Gino and Kapanen, and McCann slides down to 3C. So I like what he does from that standpoint. I also think it improves the second power play unit, which nobody's really talking about. And listen, I don't think that Jeff Carter's washed by any means. I think that there's a lot of people that are like, oh, if this was years ago, it's a great addition. Right now, he's got nothing left. I don't see that. I think he can still skate. I think that he still can bring something to this team. I don't know if this means that they're done or what, but I'll tell you what, I'm happy about getting Jeff Carter yesterday and not getting Nick Delorier. So hopefully that doesn't happen today. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear right now. It's been a running joke between all of us that the guy they were going to get at the deadline that screws up everything was going to be Nick Delorier. So I was really shaking in my boots whenever Elliot Friedman had that tweet. Mm-hmm. But I really like the addition of Jeff Carter.
You were bringing up that name even before that was mentioned, you're saying? Like,
that's a joke. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah. I always have like that one person that I'm like, they cannot trade for this guy. And every year they do it. Last year, I called the Connor Sherry trade like 3 weeks before it happened.
Okay, I thought maybe you were going to say Patrick Marleau.
No, Marleau kind of just threw me off. But
Johnny called that one.
I was going to say, TK and I called that one, and that was on his show last year when we were down in the radio station.
Live on the radio, we called Marleau.
Yep.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. People are like saying like the Carter trade gives them Patrick Marleau vibes from last year. I don't see it. I think that he's still got something left in the tank.
No, he's still a very good volume shooter from the slot. I honestly believe that they should try and go at another center before the end of today and let Carter play with Gino and McCann, because Carter's one of those guys. He's such a good volume shooter in the slot, and that's the type of guy that Malkin loves to play with and he thrives with. Kind of like reminds you of how James Neal was whenever he was in Pittsburgh. And I think that let's say the second line, it's McCann, Malkin, and Carter. And then you slide Kapanen down to play with Zucker and whoever the third line center would be.
So in that scenario, Evan Rodriguez is out of the lineup?
Yeah, Evan Rodriguez would be out of the lineup. But, he'd be that next guy in the moment an injury pops up.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid 13th forward. I don't mind Evan Rodriguez. I know that I feel like he was the scapegoat early on because they had him play in top 6 minutes and specifically with Sid, and no one wants to see that. So he kind of became like the Dom Simone, if you will, for fans. But I think he's a good player. I think he's, a guy that, once again, getting back to like the position versatility, can play anywhere in that middle 6 or bottom 6. And I think that, he's having a better season than I expected. I mean, the chemistry that he's built with McCann and with Zucker, I mean, that was like a pretty good line right now. We're all worried about that second line. Like, where are they going to find offense behind that top line? Everybody knows, Crosby, Gruskens are one of the best lines in hockey. Where are they going to find offense behind it? But yeah, I mean, if Evan Rodriguez is in a position where he's not in the lineup, man, you got a pretty good lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to lie. I'm more than content with Rodriguez in a third line role. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's the same thing that I was saying about Dom Simone all those years, where it's like, if he would go into a third line role, play with like a Nick Bukestad or Jared McCann, he would have been fine. But, they just kept playing him with Sid, and I understand it. But I really like Evan Rodriguez as a third liner. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition or not, but I enjoy the idea of Zucker, McCann, and Rodriguez, that line staying together, and them just bumping them down to the third line, because they've had really good chemistry together. And I feel like it's just a combination that I don't know why or how, but it works. It's like the closest thing to a good third line they've had since HBK.
It's funny that while you're talking about this, it's like we haven't mentioned that first line, we haven't mentioned that fourth line. It's all about that middle 6, because we know we want to keep the Crosby line together, and when healthy, that Bluder, Aston Reese, Tanev line, they got to stay together. The chemistry that they've built over the last 2 seasons. So it's all about that middle 6. And yeah, I think that Carter would be the perfect fit to play with Gino. So if that's the route that they go, I'm fine with that. Because you mentioned the volume shooting that he does and how different it is playing with Crosby as opposed to playing with Gino. We've had Brian Rust on the show, a guy that's played with both those guys. Mm-hmm. That's why it's so impressive what Brian Rust does regardless of who he's playing with, because he talked about how different it is. With Sid, it's always be ready for the pass. With Gino, it's just give him the space. Let him do his thing, but be ready to shoot. So I think that Carter would be a perfect fit on Gino's line should they go that route.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, another, the option for the center that I would want potentially to come in and play that third line would be, I know there's been a lot of talk about it this morning from several news outlets. I know Dan Kingerski's been all over it, but Ryan Getzlaff coming in would be the Brian Burke acquisition. Won a cup with Berkey in 2007 in Anaheim, and he would provide the physicality thing as well. And I think that would be an interesting pickup and something that the organization would like and Sid would like as well. But what are you thinking about that, Smitty?
That'd be funny because they go and get Jeff Carter for Hextall, and then they get Getzlaf or Brian Burke. They just get one of the old players for each of those guys. But no, I mean, I think it's a guy that people would be like, oh, way past his prime, but I think he can still play. I like the fit, but again, it's going to be interesting to see what the combinations look like. And again, we always talk about when healthy, what are they going to do? But when have the Penguins been healthy? I mean, like, it's not even a short, like Kapanen hasn't skated. Tanev was just placed on long-term IR. He hasn't been on the ice. Gino just started skating. Obviously hasn't had any contact yet. Like, these are all question marks going into the playoffs. And yeah, so I don't think that they should stand pat. Like, if the right move's out there, and Ryan Getzlaff would be a guy I think worth exploring.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's one of those things like where it's almost like the Avengers, where it's like a soul for a soul. Every time somebody comes back, someone that's just as important as the person coming back goes down. Like the other night we had, or last night we had Teddy Bluer come back to the lineup finally after missing a long stretch of games. And then Frederick Gaudreau got a little lower body injury, and he's currently being evaluated. We probably won't know anything for a couple of days, but that's unfortunate because he's been such a great depth piece for them and just an amazing face-off guy.
Yeah, like I know that this is a trade deadline show, and obviously he's not like a trade acquisition or anything. He's somebody currently on the team, but it's crazy that like this guy wasn't playing anywhere. Like he was just buried in our minors, and all of a sudden he gets called upon just due to injuries. Like had we not had these injuries happen, this guy wouldn't have gotten a shot this year. And he just, I don't know if it's just Sullivan's system or what, but he's been a perfect fit to the point where he bumped Jankowski out of the lineup, when Teddy Bluger came back. And not only that, and I don't know if it was just, more of getting Bluger acclimated, not wanting to play as many minutes, but Gaudreau stayed the third line center and Bluger was centering the fourth line. So I don't know. I mean, Frederick Gaudreau and Josh Yohe, who writes for The Athletic about the Penguins, brought Gaudreau up too. It's like in post-game press conferences, you don't even have to bring this guy's name up. The coaching staff just raves about him. All they do is talk about this guy. And it's the same with Radim Zahorna. They can't get enough of these guys right now. So it makes you wonder if they are done after just adding Jeff Carter, because they feel like they do have those guys to step in and play should they be called upon.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, this is a great problem to have, because just like in 16 and 17, whenever it's 17, especially whenever they had Scott Wilson, Carter Rowney, Josh Archibald, guys like that at a moment's notice, Sully could just insert them into the lineup and they would do what he needed them to do. Like the one thing that stood out to me was, I think it was like game 4 or game 5 against Ottawa, that Saturday or Sunday afternoon, where they just blew them out like 8-3, and they pulled 3 substantial guys. Like I know Carl Hagelin was out for that game, and they had Rowney, Archibald, and Wilson in, and they all contributed in some way, shape, or form. And that's something I think we're going to get out of guys like Zahorna, Rodriguez, and especially Frederick Gaudreau. I mean, I'm to a point right now where I would keep Rodriguez out of the lineup and maybe bump Brandon Tanev up with Zucker and Carter potentially, just to keep Frederick Gaudreau in the lineup and use him as an extra face-off guy late in games, similar to what they did with Matt Cullen, where he'd get double shifted with Sidney Crosby in playoff games.
I will say, like, for as much as, like I said, Yoey's mentioned that they love Frederick Gaudreau, they can't get enough of him. They bring him up every time that they can. Solly loves him some Evan Rodriguez too. I mean, as we've seen, anytime that somebody in the top 6 is hurt, it's him that moves up. I mean, he trusts him to do that. So I don't see a way, like, unless they do acquire another forward today that they feel like is going to play that middle 6. I really don't see a way that Evan Rodriguez comes out of the lineup. But like you said, man, it's a great problem to have. They're going to have him, Gaudreau, and Zahorna potentially competing for one spot. And hey, to their credit, guys like Colton Sevier and even Jankowski before being, and I fully agree with him being scratched, they had looked pretty decent too in the stretch of games. They needed to be with all the injuries they had.
Yeah, I totally agree. TK, you got something?
Yeah, I'm just looking at, of course, like most of us are doing, watching the Trade Center in the background of all our screens. I have 2 things actually. One for, I don't know if we brought it up or not. According to Sportsnet for Anaheim, they're hearing that they're asking for a first rounder plus. Doesn't say what though. First rounder plus for both Rickard Rakell and or Josh Manson. And then also looking at the Vegas Golden Knights with acquiring Matthias Janmark. What the current lineups would look like for the projected forward lines for Vegas. With Janmark added, according to the NHL here, you'd be looking at Stevenson with Pacioretty and Stone, Carlson with Marchessault and Smith. You got Nosek with Tuck and Kolesar, and then you have Carrier and Reeves with Janmark forward centering the fourth line. Which I don't know about that, but that's what they're seeing here. So
that's interesting. That fourth line would be really difficult to play against. But yeah, it's
also, I'm not to cut you off, but I saw a couple minutes ago when I refreshed Twitter, Scott Lawton, a guy that a lot of people had brought up, like would be a perfect Penguin if they could get a third team involved to help navigate that deal. It sounds like Philly and him are probably going to actually come to an extension, and he won't be moved at all. Which is, I mean, he's a great player, man. You talk about like position versatility. I think he's underappreciated in Philly. But he can play anywhere, again, a guy that can jump up into the top six or, be your third line center. And, had we not gone out and got a Jeff Carter, I think he would have been perfect. And I still wouldn't be against them acquiring him anyway. But again, it sounds like he's probably going to stay in Philly.
Doug, I also have another one here. Just saw come in. The Canucks acquired Matthew Highmore for Adam Gaudette from the Blackhawks. That's the deal that currently went down.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We touched on that a little bit earlier. I think it might have been whenever you were in the other room. But I like Adam Gaudette for the Blackhawks. I think that's a very solid third or fourth line forward option. Just another guy that the Blackhawks acquired where Gaudette needs to bet on himself, right? He's been kind of underwhelming these past year and a half in Vancouver, and it would be good for him to get a fresh start.
Your enemy, Mr. Derek Broussard, is in play to possibly be traded, by the way.
Oh, that's see Smitty shaking his head.
Listen, that was nothing broke my heart more than him not working out. And he didn't want to be here. I understand he had the groin injury as well, but he had no interest in being a third line center. He wanted second line or not. It actually is reminiscent, and he didn't, act like it when he was playing. But Jordan Staal, I mean, he wanted a bigger role, and that's why he moved on from Pittsburgh. And Derek Broussard had no interest in being a third line center here, being on a second power play unit. He didn't want to be a second fiddle to anybody, and it just didn't work out. But that is so disappointing. We're chasing a three-peat at the time. We go out, we have the best center. When you have Crosby, Malkin, him, and then Riley Sheahan, who, I mean, at the time, I would have considered one of the better fourth-line centers in the league. Down the middle, I mean, that was nasty, or it should have been nasty. And Derek Broussard just, he had no interest in relishing in that role.
Especially when you think about the fact that the Penguins were considering kind of doing like an HBK 2.0 in a way whenever they were trying to put Hagelin and Kessel together. It seemed like they were going to have all the depth in the world in order to make that three-peat happen. And, for whatever reason, whether Broussard was just too stubborn to adapt to his role or whatever, something like that just didn't happen. But I remember when that trade went down, I'm thinking, okay, three-peat's confirmed. I also thought that because TK and I actually went to watch his first game in Pittsburgh, and, I mean, the place was going nuts for the guy. And honestly, there was a guy already had a Broussard jersey before we went in there. I remember seeing that guy already had a Broussard jersey and everything. And we were all thinking like, okay, this is the guy that's going to, give us that extra push. And man, it just never happened. It was really tough to watch.
Well, here's another thing too with him is I keep referencing Josh Yohe. He's just somebody that, I look up to from a journalistic standpoint. But he mentioned there's been three guys for the Penguins that just haven't fit, whether it be in the locker room or just terrible with the media. And we already talked about one of them earlier in James Neal. He was very close with Evgeny Malkin, didn't have a great relationship with the rest of the team, and wasn't very good with the media. And the other one, just in a short period of time, obviously, because he ended up being a rental, even though we didn't think that was going to happen, we're going all the way back to Marian Hossa. And then he threw Derek Broussard in with those two guys. So, because he was asked a question about, like, is there a way that, a trade, whether it be an incoming piece or an outgoing piece, would ruin this locker room? And he said, in his time covering the Penguins, there's been three guys that have done that, whether they were, a guy already on the roster leaving or a guy coming in. And those were the three names he mentioned. So to see Derek Broussard there when I was in love with that trade at the time, again, just broke my heart. And hearing his name on here broke my heart again.
Real quick, got some news coming in from Kevin Weeks at NHL Network. LA Kings are nearing a 4-year extension with Alex Iafallo. So it seems
nice.
will be staying in the West Coast for the next 4 seasons.
Yep, I got something here too, you guys. Sharks are going to receive a 5th-round pick from Vegas for helping broker the Yanmark deal with Chicago. Buffalo's 5th-round pick in 2022. So San Jose is also sending a minor league player to Vegas.
Is that just because of the nature of this year? Like, what's up with these third teams getting involved so much more?
I think it's just the nature of the year with like the financial structure of the league. It's been messy. You know, I feel like the only time we ever saw a 3-team trade in recent memory was, and I hate to even say it again, the Broussard trade. You know, like literally, dude. Smitty, it triggers me just as much as it triggers you, man. Like, you don't understand.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find my jersey, my Broussard jersey.
There's nights I already know I have my Broussard. I used to do podcasts and media content down in my basement, and the 2 Penguins jerseys that I have hanging face up, just like have a backdrop. It's Derek Broussard and Justin Schultz, because I know for a fact I will never touch them ever again. So, but yeah, I think it's just the manner of the league this year financially. There's going to be a lot of 3-team deals, and there's a few teams who have an excessive amount of cap space, and it's an easy way to recoup an asset. Now I was expecting, like, with these 3-team deals to see a lot more like cap dumps, but haven't really seen that yet.
I feel like this might be something that we see the next year or even the year following that. As long as we have this flat cap at 81.5, we might be seeing these 3-team trades, just teams trying to fit under that salary cap.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It just, again, I think it's just, I think I was asking you guys to get your opinion. I agree, though. I think that you'll see it within the next couple of years because of the financial structure of the league and just what the pandemic obviously caused and everything. But it's just, yeah, it's different for sure. And also, I think that part of that plays into the fact that if you're seeing deals within the division, you'll see them get a 3rd team involved. Like I mentioned, like if the Penguins wanted to acquire a Scott Lawton, they'd probably have to do it in a way of getting a 3rd team involved, because those 2 teams aren't going to trade with each other. You know, you got to go back to like when we acquired Mark Streit from them, we had to get Tampa involved and throw them a 4th-round pick. Similar to that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, the division especially that we're going to see that a lot in is probably Canada. You'll just see a lot of 3rd teams. I was very shocked last night that the Flames and Maple Leafs actually did a deal getting David Riddick for a 3rd rounder.
You guys ready to see the teams in Canada get absolutely obliterated when they have to play teams outside that division in the playoffs? No one plays defense up there. Every game's like 8-6, and then they're going to have to play these 1-goal games and not know what to do.
I'm excited for it, but I still have this odd feeling that the Maple Leafs can hold their own.
They're good, man. They're this is probably the best Leafs team that we've seen. Like, and they always had the talent, right? It's kind of like Tampa before they won the cup, before they actually got there. Like, just a loaded roster that for whatever reason flames out in the playoffs. But this is definitely the best roster that they've had. Mitch Marner's incredible. Everybody talks about Austin Matthews. I love Austin Matthews too, but Mitch Marner's my favorite player on that team.
It's going to come down to goaltending for them. We'll see what Jack Campbell can actually do in the playoffs, because Freddie has been somebody who's been give or take in the playoffs for them. But Jack Campbell, I mean, 11-0 this season, you can't refute that, but it all changes when you get to the postseason. And so far in the Matthews era, it's changed a lot once they got into the postseason. So I'm excited to see them. This is probably their best opportunity, as you said, Smitty, to kind of go on a run for the first time in the Matthews and Marner era.
Yeah. I don't think that that's like an incredibly strong division either. I mean, you have Toronto obviously up top. They have a 6-point lead on Winnipeg, but whoever Toronto matches up with in the first round, whether it be, I mean, probably Montreal right now. Calgary is an outside chance. Vancouver, they just shut down their season. I mean, at this point, but anyway, like whoever Toronto matches, I don't see a way that Toronto loses in the first round, but we'll see if they get Edmonton in the second round. I'd be looking forward to that.
That'd be a fun series. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah, it would be perfect.
More details on IL follow here. It's 4x4 according to Pierre LeBrun. So
That's a very solid contract. He's a really good complementary piece for them. You know, him and Adrian Kempe both. I think that that's really, really good deal for them. And I mean, somebody who could potentially be a part of that core once they get better. I mean, I know they have Alex Newhook, right? Coming up. Yeah. And then Quentin Byfield as well. So they're a team that's on the rise. And I feel like in every single like coverage of the Jack Eichel situation I see, they're a team that always ends up being in the mix. So they're a team that I think can retool really quickly and become a juggernaut in the Western Conference.
So Brian Burke has kind of broken his silence and come out with some great quotes. And
buddy,
I just saw that. Yeah, I'm scrolling Twitter right now.
We told Dave Amber on Sportsnet that we're the Pittsburgh Penguins and we're not here to kiss anyone's butt to play here. And that's talking about adding Jeff Carter and never being in on Taylor Hall. So that was the first one, and that was great. And the second one was that basically Ron Hextall has been asking and inquiring about Jeff Carter for about a month now. So this isn't something that just came out of the blue for those two. It's somebody that Hextall had circled a while back to try to bring into Pittsburgh.
Kind of makes sense too when you think about it. I've talked with Doug about it before, how, you know, there's the LA connection between Hextall and Carter. Obviously, you know, those two got along whenever they had their winning years in Los Angeles. So good to see those two get reunited now, and hopefully Carter can have an impact with the Penguins. One thing I want to ask you guys about really is Jack Eichel, because one thing that I've noticed as of late, it's sort of become a trend now, is that, you know, the younger players are starting to give themselves a little more freedom in terms of where they want to go with their careers. You know what I mean? Like before, it was always, okay, you know, we're going to just, you know, there's a certain protocol that the younger guys have to follow along with, and, you know, they're going to stay with a team no matter how good or bad they are. You know, they're going to tough it out. Obviously, a good example of that would be Rick Nash. But nowadays, it seems like the younger guys are getting ready to sort of call the shots on where they want to go with their career. I mean, we've seen what Patrick Laine did in Winnipeg. You know, I forget how many years he's been there, like 3 or 4 before he made the trade with Columbus. Now it seems like Jack Eichel's sort of in the same boat, I guess, with Buffalo. So question I want to ask you guys is, obviously it's probably not going to happen today, but heading into this off season, could you potentially see Jack Eichel wearing another sweater?
Smitty, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be in Buffalo this summer. I know everybody throws out the Rangers. I think that's the easy call. I don't want to put a team there yet, but I don't think he'll be in Buffalo. I think, you know, when you talk about guys doing that in hockey, it's just like the sports culture in general shifting that way. We've seen it in the NBA for a long time. We've started to see it with like these franchise quarterbacks in the NFL, and now we're seeing, like you're saying, the NHL players that are still under contract. It's just not the way that it used to be. Normally it's okay, play out your contract, you get the free agency, then you get to pick. But they're using the power that they have now to pick their destinations. And I'm all for that. You know, I don't think that a guy should be miserable playing somewhere where he doesn't want to be. But it's funny that, like, you brought up Patrick Laine, and I'm sure he's sitting there right now thinking, man, what did I get myself into playing for John Tortorella? Yeah, the grass isn't always greener, but to see these guys using their power that they have, the very limited power while they're under contract, get to the destinations that they want to be, I mean, it's refreshing, because I'm all for, you know, F the owners of these sports organizations that are making billions when everybody complains about players making millions.
Yeah, I like that. That was very well said. But the thing that I want to see is I want to see more like NBA type trades in the NHL. Like, I loved waking up to Dubois and Laine. Like, I loved seeing that trade go down. I love
Hall for Larson 1-for-1.
Yeah. We need more Hall for Larson. We need like Jack Eichel for Shea Weber. The trade is 1-for-1.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm just playing.
You know what? For some reason, not even like in that same realm, but I just think back to, if you remember when the Pens acquired Getzlaf, it was like reported that he had already been acquired by Boston. And then it was like 3 a.m. or something like that the Penguins acquired him. And I woke up and I was like, what just happened? Like, I thought he was in Boston. Did they already ship him out? Was it just like a stop real quick at Boston? But yeah, like you're saying, man, those trades, they don't happen often in the NHL. And I was really worried that this year there would be a lack of activity today. That's why, like, last night when these trades were happening, I was like, man, please don't make tomorrow boring.
Yeah, like I'll be honest with you. Whenever you messaged me last night, I was like, "Oh man, like this is not good." Taylor Hall just got traded. Things are like all the big stuff's already happened. The Penguins seem like they could potentially be done, but yeah, I think that it's interesting. But back to Eichel real quick. The team that I would love to see him on the most would probably be the Rangers. I think that is the most seamless fit. And with how good Ryan Strom's been playing for them recently, he could easily be part of that deal. They have the prospect pool to do it without really damaging themselves much in a sense, you know? And I think he would be the perfect guy to play with Lafreniere, you know, like give Eichel one of Lafreniere or Kako, and then Mika takes the other one. I think that's the way they have to do it.
See, I was going to say, I don't even know if Kako is part of their future. I think that they're souring on him there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was part of the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, because
the Rangers good.
They're going to have to give up a substantial piece to get him. Like, you know, Jack Eichel getting traded would probably be like the biggest trade that's happened in the NHL, I would say, in the last 15 years. You know, like it's like it would be a huge deal because of how young he is and the status of player that he is. So TK, what do you have?
I think the Rangers on paper, obviously the way we look at it, the roster they have is a hell of a lot better than the way they actually play, the way they actually look. I mean, yeah, they have the games that they look like they rolled over and died, and they have the games that they look like they're a superstar team. I just think if they can get everything on track, they could be a seamlessly solid team, even without Eichel. I mean, adding Eichel, that would be one hell of a power play unit. Putting Eichel with like Zibanejad and Panarin. But you have a stacked team. You have Kakko if he stays there. Panarin, Zibanejad, add Eichel to the mix. You have Pavel Buchnevich. You have Adam Fox back there who's tearing it up, as we talked about last time, Doug. That is a terrific team on paper. I just don't know why he can't get it together. Because I agree with you guys. Eichel would be a terrific addition to that team.
I think
Eichel
it's
for D'Angelo.
I think it's I think it's if they were playing the exact same way that we've seen them recently the entire year, they're right there for a mix in the playoff spot. Yeah. Like they've been so good. They finally got the goaltending in Igor Shesterkin, which like coming into the year, I thought it'd be Georgiev that took over the net, but Shesterkin's been great for them recently. I think he's probably the long-term solution for them there, but I would expect them to be a problem going into the future. And obviously playing in the Penguins division, I hate it, but they're a fun team to watch. I mean, if I was an outsider just watching them play, that'd be one of the teams that I'd tune into the most. Because like you said, Adam Fox, legit Norris candidate, obviously Panarin, they got a ton of talent. I think Lafreniere as well. Like he started out the season, obviously slow start for the rookie, but like now he's kind of coming into his own. They got the right line pairings. Mika Zibanejad has had a down year as well. Like everything's starting to click for them. It's just, is it too late?
Yeah, I mean, Mika Zibanejad has his hot spots though. He's been pretty good. But,
great player.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry for cutting you off. You're good.
Yeah, you're fine. When you see them kind of whitewash the teams that they've been whitewashing the way that they have, like they've killed Philly multiple times in the past couple of weeks, putting up almost 10 goals both times. They completely bludgeoned the Penguins earlier last week. So they definitely have a lot of offensive talent and defensive talent, and the goaltending, it's young right now. And you even mentioned it, Smitty, with Lafreniere now starting to come into his own. They also have Kakko, who still has a lot of room to grow too. So this is a team that not only is talented, but is so young. And that is what it frightens me to my core, getting ready to watch them come up and play the Pittsburgh Penguins in the next couple of years. But I think they're a team that this year would have been premature to get into the playoffs, but next year they could definitely contend for a spot there.
Not to mention when you also have Boston in the division, that won't be the case going forward. So yeah,
Right. Speaking of the New York Rangers, Peyton's back with us, but just want to let you guys know in a few short moments, we're going to have a good friend of like Peyton, Johnny, and myself, Gabe Takuri, come on and talk some jerseys. If you don't know Gabe, follow him on Twitter at GTAC13 jerseys. He does a lot of nice jersey deals and at reasonable prices, and is a big part of the reason that I have spent an obscene amount of money since COVID started.
Same here. You're the one that got me introduced to him. And
I'm repping to Seattle to start off before all y'all, so
yeah, so
it's custom though. So
yeah, you're good. But Yeah, Smitty, I know you're a huge Jersey guy, but if you want to hook up, go. We'll just go follow Twitter.
I'm on Twitter right now.
There you go. There you go. Because, dude, honestly, like, I've gotten a couple really nice ones from him. Like, I got
Actually, this is where this one came from, Gabe.
Yeah, all my Leafs ones that I have came from Gabe, and they were all super reasonable prices. So it's cool. It's exciting. But yeah, we're just gonna wait for Gabe to come in here. But I think I'm hoping we get some more action here. Things are starting to die down a little bit. My phone hasn't been lighting up much, and it's kind of like tough because like
worrisome now.
Yeah, like you're worried that you're gonna have that random trade that comes in at like 4:15, and you just be like, okay, what the hell is this?
Did you see Alex Iafallo's been locked up? He's off the market now. How do you feel about that?
I did see that. I mean,
talked about it, but I saw it.
I was bummed about it because you know how big I was on Iafallo, especially going into this weekend. But I think he could be, I think he's the perfect guy for him to stay in Los Angeles. I think he could be a piece of the core with Kempe and Byfield and all those guys that are coming up through the pipeline. But I don't know, man. I wanted him in Pittsburgh so bad. The original plan, like in my head, the original move had to have been to get Iafallo to play with Malkin and then bump the Zucker, McCann, Rodriguez line down a line. But I don't know. It's craziness.
Yeah, Doug, even last night we talked to Jordy Cunningham, who covers the LA Kings.
What is that one insane, though?
What was that, Johnny?
I said, when is the deadline not insane, though? Or we're sitting here or talking about stuff. Will this we're waiting to see if this happens, this, and another thing. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet from TSN earlier about the trade. I guess you call it the trend of the last few years.
Okay.
Last year was the most trades we've seen in about the last 6 years, where 32 trades went down with 55 different players in about a dozen and a half or so of draft picks. And then year before that, we only had 18 at the deadline. Before that, it was 17. And before the biggest deadline we had before last year was 2014 when they had 25 deals go down on the deadline day.
Don't want to cut you off there, Johnny, but I saw that Braden Coburn is headed to the Islanders from the Senators.
Yeah,
that's official.
That happened late last night, right after Mike Riley got moved. But Nick, what were you going to say? Because I know it was something important.
I was just talking about the Alex Iafallo deal. The fact that we talked to Jordy, who covers the Kings, he said that Alex Iafallo loves the Kings organization, loves playing for LA, and they all love him there as well. So I'm not surprised that he ended up just signing a deal and staying there. I know he mentioned the fact that they even thought about having him be traded just to come back and sign in the offseason. So no surprise there that he just decided to stay pat with the Kings.
Hey, I don't know if you guys saw this. I know, Nick, you were talking about some quotes from Brian Burke today. I don't know if you guys or if you saw the quote about, I guess they were asked if they're, done. And he said, no, we're always listening. We have actually been listening to players that are currently on the roster for the last month or so as well. We just haven't had a trade that we felt we had to pull the trigger on. Now, now this is complete speculation, but if there's somebody on the roster right now that gets moved, it has to be Marcus Pettersson, right? Like that's the only one that I could think.
Yes.
Be on the move.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
everybody, but yeah, good.
The second one that would come to mind, I guess, I'm just thinking left-handed defenseman. If they could somehow move out Mike Matheson's contract, I don't hate Mike Matheson by any means. What a roller coaster he is, though. I mean, stud in the offensive zone, absolute nightmare at times in his own end. And I know people throw out the whole thing like, should he just be a left wing? Whatever, that's its own conversation. But I don't think, especially because this isn't the regime that acquired him, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for them to look to move out his contract as well if it presented itself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the Matheson contract is more of a summer thing, but with Marcus Pettersson, if I were to move him for anybody in like a 1-for-1 hockey deal, try and get Vince Dunn from St. Louis. Like that is my guy. I think that he would be perfect with John Marino. I know that GM JR was apparently looking into it up to the point of his resignation. So that would be something I'd love to see them cycle back on.
He was also.
Go ahead.
What'd you say?
That he was also looking into Marc-Andre Fleury up until he resigned. So,
man, that quote was so scary to me. Like, listen, I love Fleury. Obviously, he's having a phenomenal year in Vegas and everything like that. But the fact that he said that he was willing to give up a lot, I'm sitting there like, is he talking multiple firsts? Is he talking like Brian Rust? I mean, because we would have had to have seen money out as well. Yeah, I mean, like that is so scary to think about. What would be happening if he was the GM of the Penguins right now? One of those two probably isn't on the roster between Brian Rust and Jerry McCann.
And Nick Delorier is definitely on the team.
Yep.
Nick
Delorier.
Both here.
Yeah. I made the joke earlier that the Jim 100% would have traded a first-round pick for Nick Foligno.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys talked about that a lot, but like it's just insane to me that we are in a world right now where Foligno and Savard are worth firsts, but and I get obviously Taylor Hall's production drop off in Buffalo, but he's not worth a first. But Foligno and David Savard are.
Yeah, somebody was messaging me on Twitter last night saying like, what if Taylor Hall doesn't get traded at all? I said, I think that's more of an indictment on the league than an indictment on Taylor Hall himself. Like, because here I know he's having a down year. I know he's not doing well, but like you have that great skilled guy who could go for nothing. And it's like, why wouldn't you want him over like Nick Foligno?
Leadership.
Grit.
Yep.
Physicality. Everything that's derailed this team over the past 3 years, man. Everything that's derailed this team over the past 3 years. So it looks like Gabe got his camera working. Gabe, welcome in, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So we're going to have you on. I feel like this is the most perfect time to have you on because there's not a whole lot going on right now with the deadline. I just looked over at my TV. They're showing a Scott Lawton highlight package, maybe thinking he's going to get moved or sign an extension. But let's talk jerseys, man. So I gave everybody that's on here a little background about you. So you have a very unique little thing going for yourself where you sell jerseys on the secondary market through Twitter and through Instagram and places of that nature. And I really like that. I think it gives people an opportunity to get jerseys for rather reasonable prices and add to their collection. So I'm gonna let you have the floor and talk about what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So what I do is I pretty much just resell jerseys that either they could be in good condition or even bad, and I just fix them up and restore them. But if you go through me, like using me as a seller, then the jerseys are guaranteed to be 100% authentic. I've done years of research on jerseys for my personal collection and then knowing what jerseys to sell as well. So I keep the prices as fair as possible.
Great man. Does a great service for us all. Thank you.
Honestly, though, like we were talking about it earlier, like you're the reason that my basement is just an absolute just monstrosity of jerseys. Like it is absolutely ridiculous how many jerseys I've bought off you since COVID hit. I was giving Smitty some background. I know that at some point I sent Smitty a picture of like a rack or two that I have in my basement, and it's like just an absolute absurd like collection. So it's good stuff. So anything new on the jersey front? I know we were talking recently about Adidas potentially changing the material of the jerseys for next season, and maybe the reverse retros sticking around for some teams as an alternate.
Yeah, I've heard from what I've heard from rumors on Discords and whatever, that they're changing the material next season to, I think it's something evergreen or something like that. I know I looked that up on Adidas a while ago. So that's why if you go on eBay right now or even at your local Ross stores, you'll see jerseys going for cheap because Adidas is trying to get rid of them so that they can restock with the new materials next season.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I know that I've been messaging back and forth with Gabe a couple times because I've recently found 1 or 2 eBay stores that are just selling them for, I mean, obviously they're not super low, but they're super reasonable prices. Like, just this past month, I was able to add a Dylan Larkin jersey, a couple other guys in my collection for reasonable prices that I wouldn't have been able to get them otherwise. So if you're able to, I'm sure I'm going to tweet out the links after this for anybody that's watching this, because it's a great deal that you need to get in on. And it's something that I know I myself am passionate about. I know Johnny and Peyton are passionate about it as well, that just keep adding to your collection if you can. And I'll tell you what, man, the jersey that I've been eyeing up from you is the Paul Correa jersey.
Oh yeah.
That you had on Saturday. I was like looking at that, man, because like I don't have a Correa jersey yet. He's one of my favorite players that, like, outside of like Pittsburgh, like it's him and Vincent LeCavalier, like my 2 favorite players of all time. So like that would be something cool to add. But Gabe, let's talk about the Islanders here, because I know you're a big Isles fan.
Yeah.
So Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, and most importantly, Travis Zajac to basically do away with a potential Taylor Hall trade. What are you thinking?
I mean, I'm a huge Taylor Hall fan. I'm not going to deny that at all. I wanted the Islanders to get him pretty badly. I mean, I thought his value was pretty low considering what Buffalo got back eventually for him. And I get why they didn't do it, because I guess Palmieri fits the team system a little bit better, in my opinion at least. But I do like the trade overall. Like, I was extremely happy when the tweet came across my phone, and I didn't think we gave up a lot at all. I mean, I figured we'd have to give up a first if we getting a high-end rental player, but I'm extremely happy with the trade.
Tom Fitzgerald's an idiot. I hate him. And then to say, like, I feel like he's Jim Rutherford. For him to say, I hope that we get the 32nd pick.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want them to win the cup. Like, what opposing GM would ever say that? Except for Jim Rutherford, who wants every trade to be balanced for both sides.
Yeah, that trade, I mean, that comment caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie. Like, yeah, you want the latest first-round pick. I get you want your player's success, but still. It's like you want that pick to be as high as possible, especially if you're the GM of the opposing team. Oh, wow.
It's so crazy, but I really like Palmieri for the Islanders.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Chicago trades Soderberg to Colorado.
Okay,
I just got that headline.
That's an interesting little depth center for the Avs. Probably have him be in like a third line capacity, because I know
Scott Lawton just re-signed in Philly.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was also going to say that too. I'm not sure how true the Soderberg is, but it's definitely a rumor. Definitely could happen.
Interesting. So Scott Lawton signing in Philadelphia. Okay, tweet just came across from the Avalanche. They've acquired Carl Soderberg from the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Josh Dickinson and Ryder Rolston. So,
I mean, familiarity. He's going back to Colorado. That's where he was probably had his best years.
Yeah, that's very true. That is extremely true. I think that's a very.
So we're getting Carl Soderberg back.
Yeah, he used to play for the Avs.
Yeah, they're getting Carl Soderberg back.
Yeah, he was in Chicago.
Interesting.
Also had the pit stop with the Coyotes in there as well.
Yeah. That's interesting. He played decent with the Avs. I mean, he wasn't fantastic, but nice game back, I guess.
Yeah, he's a great depth.
Solid.
Yeah. You know, but looks like Joe Sakic is doing Stan Bowman stuff. Getting the band back together. It's absolutely wild.
Sometimes that works, man. I like it.
Guys, you don't understand. Like, one of my favorite like things, like recurring bits in hockey, is just Stan Bowman trading for guys that won the cups with Taves and Kane. I love it. It's so funny to me. Like the other week, whenever Vinny Hinostroza ended up in Chicago, I texted it Peyton and I was like, I cannot believe this just happened again.
I love Vinny Hinostroza. I love me some Vinny Hinostroza.
Dude, I wanted him to come to Pittsburgh so bad.
I did too. Oh my God. I was so upset whenever he went to Chicago. I was so upset. But
there's so
I think
many
he'll be a good
people in
fit there.
Florida. There's so many people that signed 1 year in Florida that I wanted on the Penguins. And I mean, Gusev included, just signing the other day. Would have been perfect.
Hey, the Coyotes going to move Connor Garland. I mean, he is an analytics love. They love him. They love him in the analytics community. His underlying numbers are like legit top 6, and he makes nothing. I wonder if he gets moved.
That's an interesting one because
I've seen his name. Well, you're having Jay Fresh on here later, right?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, he's the one that tweeted out about like his underlying numbers, how good they are. So that'd be interesting to bring it up with him. Should he be on the move or potentially be on the move around that time? I don't know.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Another person that I thought had an outside shot to get moved that like there were at least like complimentary or like preliminary reports about was Clayton Keller being shopped around by the Coyotes. That would be something that's very interesting. Also, just something cool that I want to talk about right now since it's on my TV. They're doing a projected Team USA roster for the 2022 Olympics. In goal, it would be Connor Hellebuck, John Gibson, and Thatcher Demko. And then the defense would be Werenski, Jones, Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, Slavin, and John Carlson. And then Jeff Petrie and Adam Fox would be your extras. I would think
Fox.
I think Adam Fox moves it into the top 6 there. But
as an extra.
Yeah.
He might be the best amongst them right now.
Exactly. I don't understand that. But the forward group is exceptionally deep. I'm trying to get it back here because I feel like it's a really good talking point.
Gensel totally has to be in there, right?
I think Jake Gensel would be in the top 6. I think he has to be. If it were up to me, I would play him with Eichel, or I would play him with Jack Eichel and Alex DeBrincat.
That would be beautiful. I would love to see that.
Yeah, man. I'd be here for it.
Has anybody watched any Blue Jackets hockey this year?
No. No.
Well,
no.
First off, you're lucky. Second off, Seth Jones, like he's a mess in his own end. Like I don't understand. He's got 21 points this year. So, I mean, he still contributes offensively. But, I mean, he is literally becoming what Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns are in San Jose.
Oh, God.
Eats up a lot.
At a much younger age and without, like, catastrophic injuries causing it.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about how much of, like, a disappointment Patrick Laine has been? Like, in that
we need to talk about how much of a disappointment John Tortorella is. First,
the fact that he still has a coaching job right now just blows my mind.
I honestly think that he thinks it's the 1980s. If someone told him it was 2021, he would be shocked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just crazy.
Imagine him telling Laine that he wants him to block shots. Like, can you imagine? Good gosh.
No, imagine Patrick Laine being in his office being like, we want you to be a net front presence power forward. He's literally the closest thing you're going to get to Alex Ovechkin.
That's what you're saying. Specifically on the power play. Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes no sense to me. Scott Lawton, 5 years in Philly, $3 million AAV. That's pretty good deal.
Yeah, I don't mind. When you said the years, I was taken aback by it, but like I get maybe they want a year or two extra because of it being under $4 million. So it was probably a compromise on their end to give him a lower cap hit over the span.
Yeah, almost like the Brandon Tanev contract.
That's exactly what I thought about.
Yeah.
Although, people hated it from day one, and I was like, man, that is way too long of term. But like the money's fine. So,
yeah, the money's perfectly fine. I don't know if you saw my tweet a few weeks ago, but as of the night they won in Boston, I'm officially in retirement of being a Brandon Tanev hater.
Oh, well, I didn't know you were part of that group, so that takes me by surprise to find out that you retired from it.
I hated the contract. That was the only thing.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But back to this Team USA. So Tkachuk, Matthews, Kane, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Brock Besser. That's an interesting second line. And then this is where it gets weird because like they have the older guys mixed in too. And it would be Pacioretty, Larkin, and Wheeler as your third line. And your fourth line would be Gensel, Pavelski, and DeBrincat. Your two extra skaters.
Gensel on the fourth line.
Yeah. Your two extra skaters, though, this is going to get interesting. It would be Brady Tkachuk and Brian Rust.
Yeah, that makes sense. At least in terms of the extra skaters. As far as putting Gensel on the fourth line of that team, I think he's better than Pacioretty and Larkin. I don't really.
With a 36-year-old Pavelski.
Kyle Connor.
Yeah, Pavelski too. Yeah.
And Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor's overrated. I'm sorry, he's overrated.
Yeah, he's not ideal. Not ideal.
I used to think he was really good, but he's way overrated.
I would I would bet on in the next few months here, the Joe Pavelski, just like the wheels falling off the bus and him not making Team USA at all. My biggest fear of all with this is Luke Glendening is going to make Team USA because he's a face-off guy.
I mean,
more ridiculous things have happened.
Yeah. I don't want to watch Jake Gensel and Alex DeBrincat be slowed down by a 36-year-old Joe Pavelski. Like, Pavelski can still play a little bit. He can still operate on the power play especially, but, like, no.
Just put all the elder statesmen together and let Gensel and DeBrincat play with Larkin.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about speed with Larkin.
No.
My totals right now, Jake, like I'm on All Americans. Jake Gensel is third. Like Patrick Kane is first with 52. Him and Matthews are tied with 52. And then it's Jake Gensel. I mean, that's just, and they have him projected on the fourth line. Like, oh boy.
Wait, what's that you're talking about? Is that points among Americans this year?
So this season, Kane and Matthews are tied with 52, and Gensel's, I guess, would be third with, how many does he have? Let's check.
But the second highest total.
Yeah, second highest total. Yeah. So he's like second highest total. And Kane and Matthews.
Trevor Zegras for Team USA.
You know what it is with Gensel? People still can't comprehend the fact that he's just a good player on his own and isn't just an indictment of Sid. Yeah. Even when he played down with Malkin, though, he was phenomenal. Like, that was arguably, that was their best line last year was when those two were playing with Rust as well. Like, that line was fantastic, and that's why people thought, oh, that's going to be, like, open up as a line this year. We'll see Zucker up with Sid, and who's going to play on the right wing side, we don't know. We'll find out that. But, like, they tried Kapanen in there as well. But anyway, it's just crazy how that's changed to where now it's back to Crosby, Gensel, and how Brian Rust has meshed with them. But they should both be on Team USA. Rust and Gensel.
I'm telling you.
Mainly because Brian Rust was on our show. So. Yeah,
but listen, but when both of those two guys inevitably make Team USA, that is a must-buy jersey. Must-buy. Like, immediate.
Which one? Which jersey?
Rust and Gensel, Team USA. Get them both. And I'd get a Thatcher Demko for good measure.
Gabe, get on it.
I was going to say, Gabe was muted, and then he heard Jersey, and he's like, wait a minute.
No, I was typing on my computer to look at Twitter trends, and I didn't want to make too much noise, so I just muted myself for a second.
So, guys, I don't know if you just saw this, but Scott Lawton just signed an extension with the Flyers, 5 years, $15 million.
Johnny, I love you, brother, but you are always on a delay.
He might have. I saw the jersey switch. So.
Oh yeah, he's into it. He's swapping around. I'm just sticking with my Sid rookie jersey all day.
Yeah, I was gonna go with my Lemieux one, but you already had that same exact jersey. Yeah, I'm not about to do that today.
Yeah, that's another cool thing to talk about. Let's just talk about right now about how I collect Sidney Crosby jerseys, and I have like everything.
Like you collect
except for,
Taylor
like,
Hall
two.
jerseys.
Yeah, I am also collecting Taylor Hall jerseys. That Boston one's going to be a must buy on clearance in the summer.
That Pittsburgh Penguins one after next offseason is going to be great too.
Listen, I had I went on Fanatics. I had a customized one of him wearing number 91. I had it screenshot and I just kept sending it to people. Like the moment Ricola and Sevier went on later,
I was like, "There's absolutely no way."
I was like, print the jerseys. It's happening. I was like so ready for it.
No, if you go back through like your media, it's just funny to go back and look through like you would always like. It looks like the daily face-off thing where you were just slotting different players in on different lines. And I remember the one with Taylor Hall there, and I was like, wait a minute. This isn't happening, but this needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally
he went to the wrong black and gold.
He pulled the reverse of
tweet line combos. It's so
What
funny.
do we think about the fit, though? What do we think about the fit of Taylor Hall in Boston? I don't know if you guys talked about this before I came on here, but
I don't like it. I
Listen,
don't think it's going to work.
Boston has like 3 guys that can score goals on that roster right now.
Mm-hmm.
So who's he going to play with? Is he going to play with Coyle and I don't know who else?
I'm going to resurrect Jake DeBrusk.
No, I would let Jake have his own line in a sense. Like I would let Jake play with Krejci and then Hall play with Coyle. But I'm going to look at their lines right now. Obviously they have the dynasty line. As of right now, they have Taylor Hall slotted in with David Krejci and Craig Smith.
Ooh.
Which decent, but not great.
I mean, Krejci and Hall both only have 2 goals this year, so that's perfect, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that is true. But I'd bump DeBrusk up into the top 6 and let Hall play with Coyle and Ritchie. I think that would be more complementary to his style than playing with Krejci and Smith.
I just know that Taylor Hall is very excited to get out of Buffalo. I'm pretty sure Boston plays Buffalo like very soon. Like,
did you see
like
that
tonight? Like he's literally on the road to Boston right now.
Yeah.
he was out of there. He's gonna play Buffalo.
Yeah, and I think he's way too excited right now. He's so excited to the point that he's like, I might sign an extension here. Like he already said that. He's like already thinking about it, which is just wild to me. Like right off the bat, wanting to sign an extension there. I mean, I don't know. He would be a good complementary piece there. It's just a matter of finding the right person to play him with.
I don't think that they have any secondary scoring. Like, I just think that they're so top loaded with that top line and there's nothing behind them. I mean, that's why they got Taylor Hall. Maybe he fixes that. Maybe Krejci starts scoring more and maybe he starts scoring more and that fixes that problem. But what they are is pretty much what the Penguins would be if they didn't, like, what everybody thought was going to happen when all these injuries happened to the Pens. Didn't happen. Like, we're just going to have a top line and nothing else.
Yeah, and the thing that's unfortunate about that top line is he's best suited to play with Bergeron and Pastrnak. But they're not going to take Marchand off that line. So that's what
underrated loss for Boston. Torrey Krug on the back end.
Very underrated loss for Boston.
Now, I didn't love he got 7 years in St. Louis, something ridiculous, which is way too many years for him at this point in his career, I think. But still, like, perfect fit in Boston, obviously. We saw how good he was there, especially on the power play. And losing him along with obviously, like, I can't believe that Zdeno Chara put on another jersey anywhere else, but like they just lost so much on that back end just in one off season.
Yeah, that's a tough one for them because Charlie McAvoy's more of like a two-way guy, whereas with Torrey Krug, he was like their pure one-dimensional offensive like defenseman power play quarterback. And now I feel like they're trying to throw that responsibility into the hands of Matt Grzelcyk, and the drop-off between the two of them is just ginormous.
When you think of that Boston Bruins team, like as long as we've all been watching the Bruins, the one thing that always stands out about them is that defensive core and just how physical they are and how well they play. And this year it just hasn't been the same for them. You can tell they sort of miss Krug from the offensive standpoint. Obviously, they're missing Chara because of the leadership. Like you said, Smitty, I'm surprised that Chara even signed with another team. I figured it'd just be either Boston or nothing at all. But, obviously he's meshed well with the guys in Washington. You see all the stuff that they've been doing. So, yeah, I mean, Boston's just – I feel like that. I'm surprised they didn't pull the trigger on maybe another defensive a trade on the back end, maybe, or something like that. I don't know if that would have been possible for them, but hopefully.
Yeah, I know. I know they were heavily linked to the guys in Nashville, Ryan Ellis and Matthias Ekholm, but I haven't seen anything with those guys recently. Because Nashville, all of a sudden, they're in the playoff spot in a very weak division. So
they can catch up in any minute too, especially with how that division's been shaken up over the years, over the course of the season.
I think Boston was really banking on when you lose Torrey Krug and Zdeno Chara in one offseason. They were really banking on Brandon Carlo taking the next step, and that just hasn't happened.
Wow. Because he's a big body too, isn't he? He's like he's up there.
Yeah, he's big defensive.
He's like 6'5". I don't know. I think he's over 6'5", 212. Yeah. So he's hurt right now.
So here's something interesting.
Big bodies, though. I was just looking at Boston's roster, and I got mad because I saw Tenorti's name, and I'm just thinking of the hit on Gino.
Yeah. Alrighty. So while we got a moment, just want to welcome in Danny Shirey from Penn's blog. Danny, how you doing?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing well. How are you?
We're doing pretty good. We're all just kind of sitting in here talking hockey, talking jerseys a little bit. But, yeah, man. So we're currently just waiting for something to happen. While I'm here, I know it's an Eklund rumor, so it's not major, but Brandon Sutter is allegedly in play for the Penguins.
Oh boy!
What?
Yeah, what? I just saw that tweet from somebody, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know, man. Great. But while we're at it, I just want to introduce Danny. He's a writer. What you got?
I was also saying, I'm just going through Eklund's timeline now. Penguins in on Ryan Murray.
Another LD, huh?
Yeah, we don't already have enough of those as it is. So
let's just add another one.
That's but like if they were to move a Marcus Pettersson in a bigger deal, that could be somebody.
Are you suggesting Marcus Pettersson's going to go in the Brandon Sutter trade and then?
No. I'm suggesting like Marcus Pettersson gets moved for like Mantha.
That's not going to happen.
I know it's not, but I was just like, it's just like in my head, man. But yeah, my thing is like if you were to use like Ryan Murray as like somebody to like offset the loss of like one of the defensemen, like who would you even move one of the defensemen for now? Because like I feel like all the big guys are like off the table. It would have to be some random off the wall trade.
I mean, I'd be willing to move literally any of our left defensemen.
Yeah, I'm with that. The only one that might slightly be off the table for me is Brian Dumoulin, but other than that, like
I would even consider moving him too. I doubt that they could find somebody to step up in his role right now, but I would put him on the table as well. He's not unmovable to me by any means.
Yeah, you do have a good point there. But while we're at it, I just want to introduce you real quick. We have Danny Shirey in here from Penn's blog. He is a writer and an analyst. Currently just started his own YouTube channel doing video breakdowns of some Penn's goals. We love to see that, Danny. And wanted to see like what was your thought process behind that? Like what caused you to decide to start doing that?
Well, probably 2-ish months ago, I just sent out a tweet asking if there would be interest from the Penguins community on Twitter for me to start doing that. And I had an overwhelming response where people were like, yeah, I'd really be interested in that. So I kind of beat around the bush for a while. I was trying to find like the best telestrator that I could, and all these softwares were like $200, $500, and I was like, I'm not spending that kind of money to do that. So I finally got some free time a little bit later, and just downloaded like a screen brush where I can just draw over top of my screen, and started doing them from there. So I don't think of myself as having a greater hockey mind than anybody else, but like I'll just think of something and then I'll tweet it out, for instance, and everybody's like, oh wow, I didn't even think of that, or wow, that's a really good point. So then I just realized that I might notice certain things that other people might not pick up on. So I just like to share, my perspective and what I have to offer.
No, you do have a greater hockey mind than everybody else, Danny.
Well, I'll accept that too. I just don't think of it that way until other people start telling me so.
You see the game as a hockey coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I've always thought the game the way I do now. Of course, it's always evolving. But I only started coaching like 3 years ago. I just finished my 3rd season coaching, so. I guess it's just been there. I've been watching hockey since I was like 3 or 4, so it's in my blood.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like you're always 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody else when it comes to just breaking down the play. But yeah, that's awesome to hear, and good to see that you're starting to do that, because it adds a different element to the content that we see on Penn's Twitter and just in Penn's media in general. I mean, the only person that like really does something similar to what you're doing right now, at least from the Penguins media perspective, is probably Jesse Marshall with The Athletic. Also, just want to say shout out to Jesse. He was supposed to be on today, but him and his wife, Ashley, are currently expecting their first baby.
Priorities, man. What the heck?
Yeah.
Dude,
You can have,
honestly, though, he messaged me this.
Definitely priorities.
He
can have another
morning.
kid. He can't have another 2021 deadline.
Yeah, he messaged me this morning and said it's a no-go. I was like, all right, man, best of luck, and I'm sure we'll see some stuff about baby Marshall come in coming hours. So good for him.
I'm texting him right now.
Good deal.
Hop on the Zoom from the delivery room.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious. So like I work in a hospital, and I know for a fact that the labor and delivery nurses would just snap at that. Because like where I'm at in the hospital is mostly up in the maternity unit, and I've seen like people just like snap out on like dads for stuff like that, like just being on like FaceTime and stuff. Craziness. But yeah, we're currently just waiting around. Danny, I got to ask you, I know it's been a progression. I've been looking at your Twitter throughout the morning and throughout the day. Are you a Jeff Carter guy yet?
I don't know that I'm a Jeff Carter guy. I woke up, my girl and I, we typically go to bed pretty early. So I missed all the shenanigans last night, and I woke up and saw that the Pens got Carter, and I was just like, dude. But I sat on it for a little bit. I did some research into him, and I think there's definitely worse options out there that they could have gone after. And I certainly think that he. What's that?
I said Nick Delorier.
Yeah, for sure. But are the Pens
I love how
still
Nick
in on him?
Delorier is.
I don't know if they are.
I think they are still. I think they still are on him, but I hope that they back away very, very fast.
I saw that one tweet that said they were connected to him, and I quoted and just said, "Get disconnected."
Yeah,
someone cut all the phone lines.
Yeah, as of a couple hours ago, I saw that they were still linked to him. I wasn't sure if anybody had seen anything otherwise, but I think Carter offers them a lot of flexibility in their lineup. I know we all like to sit there and tweet out our optimal lines when everybody's healthy, but the odds of getting everybody healthy probably pretty low. So you know, Carter can play all three forward positions, and he's not much of a great finisher, more so just because he's a volume shooter and likes to shoot a lot. But he offers something that the Penguins don't really have, and is that he likes to get to the front of the net, and that's where he takes a lot of his shots from. And the Penguins have, if you go on to Hockey Viz and look at the Penguins offense this year, there's a big blue blob right in front of the net and in the slot. So he's bringing something that the Penguins don't particularly have right now. And I think his flexibility to play any of the three forward positions gives them some options with their lines. Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
So Danny, are you saying that we have the next Patrick Hornquist and Jeff Carter?
No, not necessarily that. I think maybe Hornquist light. I do think he moves a little bit better than Hornquist though, even though he's a little older. I watched some of his game tape this morning, and it seems like he's still pretty fleet of foot, all things considered. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know Jeff, speaking of Penn's blog, Danny, Jeff was putting up some clips earlier, and obviously his cherry plays where Jeff Carter looks like the best player in the world. But, I mean, yeah, it looks like he's still pretty fleet of foot.
Yeah, I mean, that's what stood out to me, too, and not necessarily even his, like, just straight-ahead speed, but he seemed pretty shifty to me. It's something I keep an eye out for when I'm trying to, like, analyze a player's skating, is how they use their edges and are able to manipulate their edges. And it seems like Carter's still doing that pretty well. Obviously it's all, you know, you got to give some context to it. And we're just watching highlights where he's scoring or setting somebody up. So time will tell, but early indications are that he can still move around a little bit.
Now, I want to get your opinion. Do you view him as the third line center, or do you view him as a winger option for maybe a Malkin line?
Yeah, so that's something that Jeff actually brought up, and I didn't know he'd been playing left wing this year. I figured he was just at center or right wing, so that obviously brings a new equation into the fold. But I'd be willing to start him out on Malkin's left wing when or if Malkin gets healthy. But otherwise, I like him in that 3C role, McCann on Malkin's wing and Zucker with Carter and Rodriguez. I think that's a pretty solid top nine.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Whenever Smitty first popped on, we were talking about the possibility of them potentially getting a rental center and maybe just having McCann and Carter be on Malkin's wings, and then it'd be Zucker that center, and then Kasperi Kapanen. But I think we're at a point right now where I'd be totally fine running with Evan Rodriguez for right now, in a third line capacity, because I feel like if they do one more big, like somewhat substantial move to a guy who could be consistently in the lineup, it might mess up team chemistry and potentially throw what seems like a potential deep playoff run out of whack a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say how chemistry will be affected, because, you know, you hear about guys like Taylor Hall who are locker room cancers or whatever, and then, you know, there's stories about Jeff Carter being an asshole. So who knows how all that will unfold. I try not to worry about too much about messing team chemistry up. I always think if you can put a better product on the ice, then you should do it.
Danny, I have a question for you, just because in that scenario that Doug laid out, like we mentioned, Evan Rodriguez, he could potentially be a healthy scratch in that situation should they acquire another forward and bump him out of the lineup. Do you think that Evan Rodriguez is the player that we've seen over this stretch of games, or do you think he's overachieving?
Yeah, I definitely think what we've seen from him lately is what he is. When he was with Buffalo, he had a pretty good history of being a marginal play driver in a bottom six role. And I know a lot of people were hating on him at the beginning of the year when he was on Crosby's wing, and then he's still playing second line minutes technically, but he's never going to be a guy that's going to score a ton of goals or make beautiful passes. His hands leave a little bit to be desired, but I really think that he's a solid fit for the Pens, and I have no problem leaving him in that third line role.
Good
Sam
stuff
Bennett's
there,
going to
Danny.
Florida.
Yep. I'm glad that's off the table for the Penguins and that can be lowered into the grave.
Curious to see what Florida gave up there. I
mean,
if it were Rutherford, it's a first-round pick going the other way. But
100%.
and Vancouver extended Brandon Sutter. So,
that's
not
good,
happening anymore.
I'm glad that's not happening.
Lawton too, officially.
Yeah.
Sam Bennett's going to Florida.
I'm so glad that we don't ever have to deal with that. At least for this year.
Yeah, remember whenever the Yinzer faithful was just like, we need Sam Bennett, and like, why?
You mean yesterday morning?
No.
Yeah, like Sam Bennett's going to save this team. He's going to be the grit and toughness that this team desires.
It is incredible to me that 7-8 years later, there's still people that are part of the hockey community that see these players for their draft pedigree rather than the results that they've put up for the past 6 years. Like it is just insane to me that people still hang on to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, things are.
When was Sam Bennett drafted? Was he drafted high?
I think it was 2014.
He was like a top 10 pick. Yeah, he was I think he was 6th overall.
Fourth overall, 2014.
Oh my goodness, that is
that's rough. That's
wild.
I do remember that draft. Now that you said that, because I remember everyone thought he was going to be. They said he was going to be the star player, or this, that, and another thing, and they were talking. He was going to go 3rd.
Yeah, Draisaitl was 3rd, so pretty good.
Yeah,
call
Draisaitl was 3rd. Yeah.
See who the better player out of that draft class was.
How do you draft a bust 4th overall? That's so hard to imagine.
The same way you drafted a bust 5th and 6th overall.
Who was 5th and 6th?
5th overall was Michael Dalcal. Sorry, Gabe.
Oh, God.
And 6th overall was Jake Virtanen.
Future Penguin, by the way.
Future Penguin Jake Virtanen.
Future Penguin. Eric Gustafson just got traded to the Canadiens.
I just saw that too.
They're really going to pick him over Mete.
Now here's the replacement for Mete.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Eric Gustafson does play defense, correct?
Yes, he does. He does.
Because I thought Mike Hoffman played defense.
That was
embarrassed.
It was a big mistake, but
it's okay though.
Yeah, I think that Eric Gustafson's an interesting fit for Montreal, but I feel like we're to the point in the year now where Mark Bergevin is just literally throwing crap at a wall, to see if it sticks.
He's my favorite GM.
That's what he's been doing, though. Don't you remember during the offseason after they acquired Josh Anderson and everybody was talking about how they were going to run the Canadian division this year? And then they had a good 2-week start to the season because they were playing the Canucks every night. And now nobody's talking about them, right?
Yeah, just the hot dumpster fire.
And they're still going to end up making the playoffs and just get absolutely throttled by Toronto.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The funny thing, though, is I don't think Toronto's as good as most people say they are. I don't see them making it to I don't see them making it out of the East.
That's the thing is, there's just no defense being played in these games, and I feel like no team in that Canadian division is going to be built for playoff hockey.
Well, I just said I don't see them making it out of the East. I actually don't know. So, how are the playoff brackets going to work after you get out of divisional play? Does anybody know?
I thought I heard they're reseeding it after every round.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
kind of like how they did it.
That'll probably make for some pretty interesting matchups.
Yeah, kind of like how they did it years ago whenever Sid and Gino were first coming into the league. But
So Sam Bennett, according to Pierre LeBurn, is being traded to Florida for a 2nd-round pick plus a prospect.
That's way too much.
That's an overpay, yeah.
That is absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crap into that deal.
I'm going to just throw it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know the prospect yet.
I'm going to just throw the dart at the bullseye. I'm going to say it's going to be Saron Noel.
Oh God.
But that's just speculation until we get there. But
I don't know if he's in the pipeline for Florida. Doesn't Tampa and Florida share the same AHL affiliate? The Crunch or Syracuse?
I'm not sure.
I read
Someone
that somewhere.
said-
Oh wait, here we go. Emil, so Bennett to Florida for second in 2022, and Emil Heinen, from Elliott Friedman.
Yeah, he was taken in the second round last year. It's the equivalent of 2 seconds.
Yikes. I mean, for that
Florida-
price, why not just get Taylor Hall?
Florida
Exactly.
Nationals this year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense. But what I was trying to say earlier before we got the Sam Bennett news is I cannot wait until about 3:30, 4 o'clock, where we're on the TSN feed for ESPN, and Mark Bergevin just shows up in a super tight polo, looking like a WWE wrestler ready to cut a promo. I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
I'm gonna
It's
buy
gonna
my
be fantastic.
That is a dude that I would not mess with.
No, and it's so funny because everybody forgets that he played for the Penguins for like a year or two.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he played for the Penguins during the X generation.
Okay.
Who are we talking about?
Mark
Bergevin.
Him and Fleury were teammates, like towards the end of his career and at the beginning of Fleury's. They were teammates.
Yeah, that 04 it was the season before the Ovechkin draft. Because I was just reading about this last night.
He was even an alternate captain for the Pens.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
With some of the, you ready for these names? Alexei Morozov, Mario Lemieux, Orpik, Scuderi, and Malone were all rookies at this point.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is like his time with the Penguins was so bad in terms of what he did on the ice. All it says is he was known for his practical jokes in the locker room.
Sounds like Fleury.
Gee, I wonder where Fleury got it from.
That's horrible. So we got some news here. The Eric Gustafson trade is official per Pierre LeBrun. It's going to be for a 7th round pick in 2022, and the Flyers retain 50% of the salary. So,
I think Montreal's coming out with the dub on this one.
That's a decent depth trade for them. I feel like any way you spin it, but I don't know, man. I still cannot believe that Sam Bennett got the second best package of the trade deadline. I just read that in a tweet, and I'm just like, I can't even believe that just happened. You know, because the package that the Sabres got back for Hall was so bad. Like, and it's not even just the second. We knew it was going to be a second, but the roster player that you yielded in return was Anders Bjork, of all people. I thought for sure they would be able to squeak Jake DeBrusk or somebody else of substance out of Boston, but I just can't even believe that.
Yeah, they took a huge L with that trade. They definitely could have gotten more for that, because it's like, even though Taylor Hall's having like an off year, like, it's Taylor Hall. Like, he's just on a really bad team.
Taylor Hall wouldn't have off years if he had a team to play with.
Exactly. This wouldn't even happen if he would have been on like a team like if he was on like Pittsburgh or Toronto, like 20, 30 goal scorer. Easy.
Hey, you start out in New Jersey, then you go to Arizona, and then Buffalo. Like, he's never had a team to play with.
He's shot himself in the foot by going to those teams. He's lowered his trade value.
Well, he was decent in Jersey, though. The other two, not so much.
He was decent in Jersey, but he's just
MVP.
He won an MVP.
Exact MVP season, and he played amazing against Tampa. Unfortunately, they got knocked out, but it's like, come on, like, he definitely can come back. Like, he teases it all the time. Not this year, though.
We are currently 10 minutes away from the 3 p.m. trade deadline. But
so we're
as
about,
you guys know,
an hour and 45 minutes out from hearing all the final trades.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're just gonna be stuck in limbo here for a little bit. Wow. So Sam Bennett had 12 points.
Isn't Isn't there okay, so the deadline is at 3, but can't they make more trades after 3?
No, the trades have to be in by 3 o'clock.
Oh,
but it's always delayed as the paperwork comes into the league. So I remember the big late deadline deal that the Penguins did that sticks out in my memory was a couple years back when they traded Simone Dupre for Ben Lovejoy. That happened at 4:30. Dude, that's another one of those ones. Just for the ERAT for Forsberg trade, I remember where I was. I was standing in line at a Panera Bread when Ben Lovejoy got traded back to Pittsburgh.
I was actually at a Planet Fitness, and I just remember people were pissed because for some reason Simone Dupre was loved here.
He was another one of those weird ones I was obsessed with. I loved him, and I loved Bertuzzo. Obviously, that's very telling of where my hockey knowledge was when I was 15 years old. So we've evolved over time, but yeah, I was a huge Simone Dupre guy.
In those days, I was at least with that specific season, Dupre was having a decent year, and I remember the biggest gripe was that we traded Lovejoy to Anaheim for I think it was a 6th-round pick or something 2 years prior. And then we acquired him for Simon Dupre, who was a former 1st-round pick. So I think that's what the whole beef was in terms of that deal. But obviously, it ended up working out for the Pens because Lovejoy ended up becoming a member of that 2016 team, and Dupre
unsung hero.
Yeah. I mean, he played
that goes back to that goes back to Danny's point about just people being in love with where a guy was drafted. They don't care about the actual what the player does on the ice once they're drafted. Just, hey, that was a 1st-round pick.
Example, Laugh. Laugh this year is a huge example of that. I'm sure he'll definitely pan out, but
yeah, he's going to be fine. I feel that's more of just growing pains and coaching scheme in general, because I know that David Quinn isn't universally liked in New York. At least
that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what. The funniest thing when they blew out the Flyers without their coaching staff.
I know
everyone. That was it. They wanted him fired right then and there.
Yeah, and that was the game that Mika. I think he had 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah,
that night too, and it was
all assisted from Strome and Fox. It looked the exact same way in the box score.
It was.
It reminds me
of the same thing across the box score. For half those goals, it was just a matter of what order were they in.
Yeah, it reminds you of that one game where the Pens were in New Jersey a couple years back, where Sid scored a hat trick and it just came from Gensel and Cherry every single time. So, but yeah, we're currently 5 minutes away from the trade deadline here.
I guess Connor Sherry's not coming back this deadline, huh?
No.
No, he's staying in Washington.
Maybe next year.
I'm content with that. Maybe next year, though.
Unfortunately, my son Dominic Cahoon also won't be returning.
I hate that he got traded.
I'm very upset about that.
I still hate it.
I'm so mad. Listen, I have a curse when it comes to jerseys. I ordered this Dom Cahoon jersey, and it was right before the trade deadline, and he traded to Buffalo. Wasn't it Buffalo? He got traded to Buffalo.
Yeah, he's traded to Buffalo.
For Connor Sherry and Evan
Rodriguez.
I was so mad. I was so
during
mad.
Your radio show.
Huh?
During your radio show.
Yeah, it happened during. I just sat there in silence.
So it was hilarious.
I was hosting my radio show at Cal, and I got the news that Dom Cahoon got traded, and I just sat there in silence. I was so enraged.
If you did the slow zoom in and started playing Sound of Silence.
Yeah,
that was
it was.
Peyton,
I was not mentally.
It was for me and TK. That was probably the funniest moment during the entire trade deadline last year. Was watching Peyton just slouch down in his chair
Well, let us not forget when Trocheck got traded. That was funny.
me laying on the floor screaming at the top of my lungs that Trocheck got traded.
That was
there were a lot of words that we're not going to use on this show. said in that radio station because we were off the air at that time. And because I came running and I said, Trocheck's been traded. He was like, you're lying. I'm like, nope, look it up. Sure enough, TK just threw his phone down on the floor. Like, I'm done.
So inside story for the whole like Vincent Trocheck connection with all of us. TK used to own a DJing business, and he did Vincent Trocheck's wedding. I was supposed to be the person who was like his helper, and I was going to hang out with all those guys for a night, but that didn't happen. And then like we were all big Vincent Trocheck guys because like we had that like for our entire friend group. And then he got traded to Carolina. So like now it's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Still a big Trocheck supporter.
Yeah.
That was a great wedding. We got to see Trocheck and Yandel. Yandel played the fiddle for Devil Went Down to Georgia on Trocheck's arm.
Craziness. But
and him and Huberdeau signed my book.
There you go.
Don't forget what they came up and asked you to do after they said the head is this is now Mr. and Mrs. Vincent Trocheck.
I'll play the goal horn.
Yeah.
And they Trocheck also sang Friends in Low Places in karaoke.
All right. So just got to say, Gabe had to go. He's off to class right now, but shout out to Gabe for coming on. It was fun to talk to him a little bit, talk some aisles, talk some jerseys. Also, just again, shout out to Gabe for being the jersey hookup for like literally all of us here that on the Forechecking crew. You can follow Gabe on Twitter at GTAC13 jerseys. Give him a follow, look into what he's got. He posts jerseys fairly frequently, usually every single Saturday at 2 p.m. So get in on that. It's always a first come, first served basis. And it's a fantastic little way to add to your jersey collection if you choose to do so. But we are currently down to the wire here. We're within the last minute and 30 seconds until the trade deadline. And, you know, like we all hinted at earlier, that doesn't mean that the trades are finalized yet. There's going to be more coming in. So I feel like it's been way too quiet on the Pens front, like so quiet to the point that I'm like nervous for what might happen here.
Delorier.
Dude, I hope not.
For the love of God.
I hope not. We can't have that right now. But it is
you know a team that's been pretty quiet on the trade deadline today?
Who?
The Atlanta Thrashers. No, I'm just joking.
No.
I was
the Atlanta
say,
Thrashers have been pretty quiet on the trade.
It says
Dallas
done for the day. And I was like, whoever runs
They're
that
done
account
for the day.
also, it's official. Jeff Carter is going to wear number 77 in Pittsburgh. So
Good.
That's going to have
Another
what's up?
There's another development with the Sam Bennett trade. I'm hearing, I'm looking at this now, and it says that Florida's also going to get a 6th round pick in 2022.
Okay. That doesn't make much of a difference.
It's not. I know,
still.
like, it doesn't make much of a difference. I'm just saying that, like, it's just another.
All right. Nikita Zadorov is staying put in Chicago. That's a positive because, he's an overly physical defenseman who isn't really that good and probably wouldn't have even helped the contender. So good to see him staying there in Chicago. But we're going to get a lot of tweets coming in here on all of our phones where it's going to basically just say like certain people stayed, certain people got traded, and we'll go from there. But
there's a couple hold on a minute moments coming up.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of
that happens that we don't know about.
And it's not even that. There's going to be a lot of Mark Donk for Mark Donk trades or it's just going to be random AHL deals that the TSN guys just feel the need to tweet out. And yeah, we're going to have to talk about those for like 2 seconds here and there. But oh, I just saw this tweet from Ryan Wilson. He said, "Remember, trades could still be announced, and that Luke Glendening could be heading to your favorite team. You aren't out of the woods yet." That is honestly that was honestly one of my biggest fears whenever Blueger went down, and we didn't know how long he was going to be out initially. I was like, "Oh boy, we're going to be stuck with this guy." But the nice thing is, we have no Ben Hutton to Toronto, apparently, according to Elliot Friedman. That's an interesting under the radar deal for them.
It's a nice little move for them, depending on what they gave up.
Did you guys talk about Yanmark?
Yeah, we already touched on Yanmark quite a bit.
I figured you did when I was off, but I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I like the idea of Ben Hutton playing there. He'd be a very solid third pairing option with whether it be, Bogosian or Dermott or Sandin, whoever it may be, on that third pair for Toronto. So I like that a lot. But yeah, that's a nice little thing. The Blues are done. They made no trades today. So there goes my random obscure dream of Vince Dunn being traded to Pittsburgh for some reason. But yeah, we're just basically gonna hang around here, wait as trades come in. Figured this would be a good time to plug what Smitty's got going on tonight. It's 7:00 Eastern tonight, right?
Yes, sir.
You're going to have the Highsmiths on.
Yep.
Steelers linebacker Alex Highsmith and his father are going to be on with Smitty and Tyler. So be sure to tune into that. That's good stuff.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure I'll be watching that. So
all right, this one's just in now, Dougie. Looks like there's a trade with the Blues and the Ducks. Ben Hutton going up there for a mid-round pick.
The Maple Leafs and the Ducks.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good trade for them. I can't speak enough about that. I actually really, really like that for Toronto. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a hardcore what?
Did Branson go into Nashville?
Nice.
Really?
Okay. Nice. That's a lot better than good Branson going to Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
Let's not have that happen again.
We will take that. We will take that as we will here. But that is funny.
My Tanner Pearson Penguins jersey did not get worn very much because of that.
No. I was talking about that. So I was on Tip of the Iceberg last night with Nick Berlansky and Nick Holot. Also shout out to Berlansky for dropping in for a little bit. But we were talking about how we wanted Tanner Pearson to be so successful here, and we think it would have worked if he would have stayed. But it's just a shame. Like, they could have gotten so much. They could have actually gotten a decent return for him, but then they just wasted it on Eric Goodbranson at that point.
Or just the simple fact that Rutherford acquired him and then months later decided that we don't need him anymore. It was like a microcosm of his tenure with the Penguins.
Yeah, the most underrated part of that was they retained salary on Carl Hagelin to make the salaries line up. Yeah. And then he tried trading for Carl Hagelin again. The league was like, oh, wait, you can't do that because you retained salary on him. There's just so much.
Yeah. So
the return for Goodbranson is a 7th round in 2023.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Okay.
Who cares?
Alexander Barabanov has been traded to San Jose.
What's that?
Alexander Barabanov has been traded to San Jose. He was that guy.
Did you just create that guy in NHL 21?
Who is that? I pride myself on knowing everybody in the NHL, and I've never even heard of that guy.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
know.
is that in real life or you got NHL 21 booted up in the background?
No, but I do have a really sick NHL 21 franchise going with the Ducks right now. But that's besides the point.
I do as well, dude. I've won 5 cups in 6 years with my Anaheim Ducks, dude. It's dynasty with that.
But anyway, back to Alexander Barabanov. The Maple Leafs signed him out of Russia this year, and he was supposed to be a big depth piece for him, but he hasn't worked out. He basically Sergei Plotnikov himself in a sense.
Ooh, there's a name.
And now, now he's getting shipped off. Ben Hutton was the return on Ben Hutton's a 5th round pick next year. It's a really solid under the radar move. But
I'm just gonna say this, Doug. I want to say this real quick. If the Leafs don't get past, if the Leafs don't get to at least like the 2nd or 3rd round, they have to delete the franchise. I'm sorry, but they've done too much this year to not have some type of success. Like, they have so much depth over there. You know, Austin Matthews is going off. Marner's clicking with him as well. Like, they have all this veteran leadership. They have 4 previous captains on that roster, so they definitely have the leadership to do it. They have to do something this year. And you can't give me the excuse of Boston, because they're not even going to play Boston.
Let's not forget Joe Thornton's playing very well in Toronto.
That's what I'm saying. They have 4 captains. They have such great leadership in Toronto. There's no reason they shouldn't make it to the Eastern Conference Final. No reason.
Yeah, I just think
that reason's going to be Jack Campbell flaming out.
Yeah, as much as I love seeing Jack Campbell succeed right now, I see no way that he's going to be able to sustain what he's doing right now. You know, and like we said earlier with how the North Division has been, you know, there's been a lot of those games where we're like 6-5. Like the other night, they just beat Calgary like by the skin of their teeth to get Jack's record up to 7-0 or to 11-0 rather. And yeah, I just see no way that they're going to be able to sustain that once they get out of the first round where they're going up against one of the Canadian teams, and they're probably going to get just absolutely just rocked by whoever they end up playing in the second round.
So here comes another one involving Toronto. Barabanov off to San Jose for Antis
Suomala.
Thank you. I'm like, how do I say this name? Went full Yinzer and butchered it.
Yeah, never forget the time that we actually gave you free reign on one of our shows before we went into the bubble, where we gave you free reign to talk about Jesperi Kotkaniemi. That was a great time having you try to pronounce that. But yeah, I
forgot about that episode actually.
Yeah, it was early on in the summer, but just waiting for more trades to come in here. I'm like literally just scrolling through Twitter trying to see if anything Pens related is going on.
I've been doing the same thing, and I have not seen anything going on.
Yeah, you know, like I'm still just very, very much afraid of Nick Delorier.
Nick Delorier haunts my nightmares.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been in the back of my mind for, I'd say, about 3 weeks to a month now. And
well, because like we've been joking about it. Like we've talked on the phone. We have literally made this a meme. Nick Delorier is such a meme. And it's even more of a meme because it actually could happen. And it actually very likely to happen. And I hate that we even spoke it into existence.
Listen, it threw me off so bad Saturday that I ended up having a botch in one of my matches.
Yeah.
Because I was like, because I actually thought you guys were being serious when you told me that. And then I was like, man, I really hope this ain't true.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, Johnny is a semi-professional wrestler, and he wrestles on the weekends. We just went out and saw him this weekend. It was actually really, really interesting. But the Jets, there's a report from Christian Shilton saying that the Jets acquired a depth defenseman, but we're gonna have to wait and see who that depth defenseman is.
How do you put that out there without the name? Like, I've always been curious about that.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
because it draws in more people because they're to their Twitter feed, and they're like, okay, hey, how long we got to wait until we see this?
You know who is like who's notorious for that? Rob Rossi on trade deadline day with this, where he'll just like randomly tweet like the Penguins have made a trade, and then it's like we're waiting an hour and 10 minutes for the details, just like being like, okay, what the hell's going on?
The Penguins did something.
Exactly.
Trade,
but but somebody made a very good point. There's been no tweets recently from Rossi, Josh Yohe, or Dave Molinari.
Yeah.
Even Kongursky and them have been quiet. As much as I don't like listening to his stuff, even he hasn't had anything to say.
They're quiet because they don't. They're quiet because they don't have their buddy Rutherford in their ear all the time anymore. I bet Hextall and Burke have things under wraps.
Well, you see what Burke tweeted out earlier? Because someone asked him, he said, "Are the Penguins done today?" He goes, "I don't know. Oh, can we wrap up this interview so I can get back in the room and I'll tell you if we're done or not?" I was like, he pretty much told him where to go without actually saying it.
Most recent tweet from Taylor Haas: Ron Hextall will speak with the media at 3:30.
So
that'll be something to look forward to.
We're close-ish.
We're about 15 minutes out from that.
Exactly 15 minutes away from that. But yeah, it's hilarious. So talking about Brian Burke quotes real quick. I still cannot get over the press conference from like a month and a half ago where he said he didn't want to bring a knife to a gunfight. And get like a tough guy. Like that will like stick with me forever. The fact that he just like dropped that in like an actual interview.
Yeah, when I forget who wrote the article with that quote in it. I think it might have been Mike DeFabo, but I just quote tweeted it and responded, and I was like, "Well, good thing we're going to a hockey game instead."
Yeah, dude.
Did you
exactly.
Did you see Mike DeFabo's like trade deadline like primer?
Yeah, I highly doubt DeFabo's watching this, and I gave him some credit a while ago. He's been doing a good job of integrating analytics into his reporting. And then he puts out like a trade bait list for the Penguins and incorporates all these dudes who are just absolutely terrible with no analysis on them other than the fact that they are NHL players and maybe some point totals in there. So it's just crazy to me how the goalposts are shifting for these different stories that guys are putting out there.
Ooh. Hayden Fleury might be getting traded.
Waiting to confirm where.
I don't know. It's just Hayden Fleury might be on the move. Where do you think he's going?
That might be a good little pickup for Winnipeg. Because they need defensemen, and they need defensemen who can stick.
He's either going to Winnipeg or he's going somewhere in the West Division.
The Caps just got Michael Raffl from Philly.
I just saw that too.
I saw that as well.
Also hearing that Carolina has traded Hayden Fleury. Don't know where yet.
Yeah, that's weird.
From Pierre LeBrun, so it's definitely like critical.
Yeah, and Chris Johnston tweeted about Michael Raffl going to Philly, so that's a 100% done deal. The only time the insiders have been wrong this year was literally last night whenever Nick Delorier got traded to Pittsburgh and didn't. So I will take that as the greatest victory.
Yeah, Dougie and I were a little scared because we were talking about that for a solid bit. Anaheim for Fleury.
Anaheim. Fleury goes to Anaheim.
That is
for what though?
That's it.
Oh my God! Please tell me it's Delorier. Oh my God! Please.
There's no way. There's no way.
There's no way. But I just want to know. I don't want the possibility.
I'm packing up and I'm going home.
There's no way. But yeah, they have a couple there's some interesting like forward pieces for Anaheim. Not even just like players who like could be on the move, but like, you know, they have a lot of nice young depth forwards like Isaac Lundstrom, Maxime Comtois, guys of that nature who could probably go the other way to Carolina in this trade. But we're gonna wait and see the details get ironed out here. But I like that pickup for the
So before I say anything stupid, what does Fleury play exactly?
he plays defense. He plays left
Plays defense.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure he plays hockey.
Yeah, he plays hockey.
Well, because
Also,
I thought he played
Hey!
defense, but I didn't want to say anything until I knew from you guys.
And it looks
Yeah.
like that's going to be it for the Senators. They said Gabranson was it.
Okay. I feel like they didn't have much else to trade. The only
No.
person that was potentially to be on the move for them outside of like the guys they already moved was Ryan Dzingel. But he's a good fit there in Ottawa. Actually, I just found an old tweet that came across my thing. It's from like it's a headline from 2012 that said trading Sidney Crosby's better than losing Jordan Stahl. I don't
Who
know
said
how.
that?
Like, I don't know. I have no idea. It was just like some random blogger from like 2012. That's rough, real rough. But looking through more.
I wish Brian Burke was like also breaking news today as well for other teams.
That would
Also
be
an
so
insider.
funny. Yeah, he's just like chilling in his office. They bring him up on Sportsnet. Like, literally, trade deadline coverage provided by Brian Burke and Steve Dangle. Sign me up for that. But
I still want to find out this Fleury deal. I need to find out what happened here.
yeah, I'm very, very interested in it too. Just because that's a really young piece, and that could demand a very interesting return. You know, but the reason that Hayden Fleury got moved, I guess, is because expansion requirements, and he would have been exposed to Seattle. So, good on Carolina for recouping some sort of asset. I know that there were late last night. They were the Philadelphia Flyers. They were taking calls on Nolan Patrick for what could have been a similar situation. So it's kind of interesting how that's working this year. I feel like it's much more apparent this year than it was in 17 or in 16, right before Vegas came into the league. So it's an interesting little storyline.
I'm just like trying to refresh Twitter as much as I can. I'm very intrigued about this.
I am too.
All right, fellas, I got to run. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was fun talking with you for a little bit, and hopefully the Pens don't end up trading for Delorier.
Awesome. Before you go, anything you want to plug, and where can we find your content at?
I don't really need to plug anything right now. If you guys just want to go over to my Twitter profile, and you can find all the content I create on there. So you can follow
fantastic.
me at Shirey Irving.
Perfect. All right. Thanks for coming on, Danny. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.
I can also right now the Thrashers are done for the day.
Of course.
Dude, that was like my favorite tweet so far today, was that.
Jordy Ben has been traded to Winnipeg.
Oh, word?
What?
Yep. And then for Anaheim.
I'm not. I am not saying that.
I
do not
I'll
know
take
how to
this
say
one.
that. Thank
I'll
you.
take this one. Carolina gets defensive prospect Yanni Hakanpää and a pick for Hayden Fleury. I know I just butchered the hell out of that, but I tried.
I don't mind that. I don't think I mind that. Because I mean, Doug, you and I have that Anaheim franchise together. We know however you say it. How did you pronounce it? Hanapika?
I put it's like Hakanpää or Hakanpää.
Hakanpää. We know how Hakanpää
I don't know if
develops.
this is or not.
What's up? What do you got, John?
Michael Raffle is going to
Carolina. Or to Washington, rather.
Yeah. Dude, now Jordy Benn's on the move? This is
Jordy Benn's going to Winnipeg.
Crazy.
That's a decent
the pick is a 6th round pick with
for Fleury.
Yeah. You know, I like Fleury going to Anaheim. I do. I like that. I think Anaheim's slowly starting to build up a defense. You know, Jamie Drysdale's going to start breaking out any moment now. You know, now they got Hayden Fleury, which is an NHL capable defenseman. I think he'll do very well. He did good in Carolina, so I think he'll adjust to the West Coast game very nicely. And
they still have
really
Jacob Larson, Brendan Goley, Josh
Goley,
Mahara, bunch of guys.
Lindholm.
Yeah, Hampus Lindholm. You know, they still have at least like a bunch of younger defensemen who are currently playing down in their AHL system in San Diego who can be really good contributors for them potentially in these next couple of years as they continue to go through this retooling and rebuilding process.
Ben to Winnipeg for a 6th rounder.
6th rounder for Jamie Benn. That's not bad. The big thing that's surprising me, and Smitty, you can chime in on this if you want, is like how cheap some of these depth pieces are going for. Like, for instance, I talked about it last night. John Merrill went for only like a 5th round pick and a prospect, and he was one of Detroit's better defensemen this year.
Yeah, I think it's a buyer's market right now, and I think that's just due to like the lack of activity, people not really trading assets. So if people are trading pieces, they're not really getting much in return. I don't expect that to be a trend going forward. I just think it was the nature of this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that things are going to pick back up in the summer, and we're going to see some teams just throwing exuberant amounts of draft picks at like random players again and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Madison and Bowie to Vancouver.
Madison Bowie's going to Vancouver.
All right, what were you going to say, Smitty?
I was just my mom walked downstairs, but no, I was just thinking it's just circling back to like the Ducks defense thing. How funny is it to see like all the assets, especially in the back end, that have gone to other places? That if you look at like had they just kept these guys, they would already be there defensively. Like I know that we talked about Marcus Pettersson, but he's a fine NHL defenseman. He's in Pittsburgh now. They traded to Daniel Sprong in that deal. Like that was definitely a win for the Penguins. Obviously Shea Theodore in Vegas, he's a very good player. They traded him. Montour stinks now, but they had hopes for him, and that was kind of the reason they traded Theodore, was to protect him at the time. I mean, yeah, hopefully the Ducks do figure it out on the back end, but it's just funny, like those pieces were there and they traded pretty much all of them.
Yeah. The big reason they traded Shea Theodore was because they couldn't Kevin Bieksa wouldn't waive his no move clause.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me that like, I mean, let's be honest, like this might be exaggeration, but Shea Theodore is one of the most underrated defensemen in the league right now. Like he is fantastic. I mean, he had it on display in the bubble last year. His skating ability and his ability to make plays was just phenomenal, you know? And I don't know. I'm curious to see who that person's going to be for like this year with Seattle coming into the league. Like who's going to be like that big one that got away, you know? I mean, the big ones that stand out for Vegas were obviously Shea Theodore, Alex Tuck as well.
William Karlsson. I mean, they got like
William Karlsson,
Marchessault. I mean, they were just best expansion team of all time, easily. They just lucked out, dude. And especially because they were able to manipulate the roles that way, like also acquiring draft picks to take on guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just set up for long-term success.
Yeah, and I mean, they even took that second-round pick that they got. What was that, Peyton?
I'll say Eric Holla. Eric Holla going to the Knights, right? I'm right. Yeah. I'm not crazy, right? Yeah.
No, you're not.
Eric Holla going to the Knights is, I think, very underrated. I don't think because you were talking about Shea Theodore. I almost said Shea Weber. Theodore going to the Knights, and now that's underrated. He's one of the best defensemen in the league. But Eric Holla has done a lot. I'm pretty sure he was in Minnesota. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he was in Minnesota.
He was basically nothing. And then when he went to Vegas, he popped off. All these players like Marchessault popped off, Carlson popped off. Just they all came together. They played for one cause, and then one year they get to the Stanley Cup final. Like, how does that even
happen? I got to run here in a second, but I did want to say before leaving, like, well, obviously, thanks for having me on, but also just like for Penguins fans that were tuning in or whatever, I think it's important to take in consideration that this is a regime that literally just took over the team not too long ago. Yes. So I don't know that we should have been expecting a big splash, considering they're still evaluating the franchise. But this summer, I think all bets are off. It should be a lot of fun / worrisome for Penguins fans.
Yeah, the fact that they were listening on guys that are on the current roster right now is very telling that this summer is going to be very no holds barred-ish with where they're at.
For better or worse, they're going to get bigger in the summer.
Yeah, definitely.
What Zach said too. Another thing to remember with a lot of these GMs will tell you it's that, you know, it's not always the deal you make, it's the deal you don't make. So, you know, we'll see if holding on to certain players helps the Penguins make a certain run in the playoffs should they actually go on one. Just something else to keep in mind as well.
Breaking news, Anthony Mantha just got traded to the Capitals.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, per Kevin Weeks.
Oh my God.
The package is centered around Richard Panik and Jacob Vrana.
Vrana too?
Oh. Yeah.
I like
Vrana. That's interesting.
Yeah, Mantha's playing in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vrana will be heading to Detroit.
Yes.
And Richard
He'll hate it there. He'll absolutely hate it in Detroit.
No, but I could see, you know, he really fell out of favor in Washington towards the end. He was a healthy scratch, rotating in for Richard Panik, actually. So I could see him, you know, kind of having like a resurgence in Detroit, similar to how Robbie Fabry was upon getting traded from St. Louis.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know if Verana's going to like it over in Detroit.
Dude,
I think Verana's a legit top 6 player, though. I mean, I love Anthony Mantha, too. But that's, you almost wonder, like, Washington, like we were just talking about how teams were getting away without giving up much in terms of assets to get a lot of talent. I don't think that this is the case here. Like, I think that Detroit actually did pretty well for themselves in this deal. But I think with them, it was almost like they had to do something because Boston, who right now they would line up to play in the first round, went out and got Taylor Hall. So Washington's sitting there like, man, we got to do something. I don't want to say a panic move because it's not a panic move, but
Anthony Mantha, I think, will work out nicely in Washington, and he's going to terrorize Pittsburgh, and I'm going to hate it.
Him and Tom Wilson?
Yeah.
He fits that mold, kind of like a Wilson type player.
Guys, more info about that trade. There's also a first and a second round pick included in that deal. Kevin Weeks just announced that.
Detroit's going to like that. Detroit will like that.
So it's a first, a second.
And they need this.
And both of those, is it Panik and Vrana, or is it one of?
It's both.
They haven't announced fully.
Yeah, it's not official yet.
I didn't know if the slash in between the names meant it's both or if it's one of the two.
That's what I think we're all trying to figure out. It's either one of those two or both, or it's one of those and the 2 picks.
But the first and the second being involved would make sense just simply because of Detroit taking on Richard Panik's contract.
Maybe we can have another 6th overall pick, Mort Cedar.
No, we're not doing that.
Maybe we can have another repeat of that.
Man, that bums me out that the Caps got him because I wanted him so bad. But I mean,
you did.
Where's Nolan? Where is Nolan at?
I literally just texted Nolan, told him to try and pop in if he can.
He was in class, but
yeah, because he's
fellas, I got to get going. I got to prep for my own show tonight. But I appreciate you guys having me. This was really cool.
Awesome,
thanks for coming on.
Thank you for coming on.
All right, boys. Take care.
Right,
see ya. Thank you.
Alrighty. That was
we got the OG gang now.
that was Smitty from Around the 412. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at Zachary Smith 412 and follow Around the 412 on Twitter at Around the 412. So yeah, thank you, Smitty, for coming on. But as of right now, we are currently trying to process what just happened. Anthony Mantha is a Washington Capital, and I am livid.
I'm
As you should be.
I wouldn't say livid. I'm more or less like heartbroken. I'm
annoyed.
Bummed. Yeah, I'm annoyed. I'm very, very annoyed. Oh man, that's rough. That's real
I bet
rough.
you the reason why Detroit made that trade is because those picks.
Well, yeah, and it's like I know Richard Panik's contract is kind of bad, but like he's still a useful player. He'll be good for that.
Veron is not bad either. Honestly, like Veron is not terrible. Like he definitely could be of service, but
yeah. That's just a random one.
I don't know how he's gonna look in a Washington uniform. I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, that makes me a little worried.
I just can't put Verona in a Detroit jersey. You got me appalled here.
Well, I feel like now it's just a no doubter. Nick Delorier, come on down.
To the Pens?
I feel like it's a no doubter. They got it. Like they're gonna see that and be like, "Oh, we need to get bigger."
Delorier and Getzlaf out of the Pittsburgh.
No. I mean, so the fact that Ron Hextall is apparently talking to the media at 3:30 means they're done. It's just a matter of if there's anything last second, right?
It's already 3:34.
I'm turning on the Penguins app as we speak.
That's just crazy, though. I mean, like Smitty said, I like Rana, but like, wow, this is big.
Well, oh wow. So this isn't like a trade, but it's a little like from Sportsnet stats. They said the trade that sent Jeff Carter from the Kings to the Pens for draft picks can be traced all the way back to 1967. So I think that's pretty good.
Talk about trade tree.
So definitely look out for the Steve Dangle video of the trade tree. Definitely look out.
Yeah, I was going to say that has Steve Dangle written all over it in terms of trade tree.
I want to watch that video because it has to do with the Penguins, so I'm interested. But 1967 is whenever the Penguins came into the league, so I think that's super cool, honestly.
I mean, listen, Mantha's a really good player, but at the same time, like for the amount of return there is, I feel like Washington got fleeced, man. To an extent. They got hosed.
A little bit.
Mantha is a really good player, like you said. I mean, they may have got like maybe a little something else, like maybe like one more thing, probably. But I mean, I like the trade, honestly. I mean, Washington might have gave up just a little bit too much, but yeah. Other than that, I think it's a pretty good trade.
Yeah, it's a surprise. I literally cannot believe that just happened. Yeah, that's just so crazy to me that he freaking went to the Caps, man.
There's not really any other news.
No, but I imagine there's going to be more stuff. It's way too early.
TK, has there been anyone that's commented on YouTube, like for like a mock trade?
There hasn't been anything since the first thing earlier that we talked about with the Ducks and Jets. So we have been pretty quiet on there also.
Yeah, it's just wild, you know.
And I'm tempted to my NHL 21 trade Jeff Carter to the Penguins and see how he plays with that team.
Yeah, I think that he could be decent. I mean, I'm very excited for Jeff Carter, just like from a real life perspective.
Honestly,
he's so good.
I hated the trade whenever the rumor first came out because I'm like, dude, Jeff Carter is old. Like, why? But I know I was talking to you, Doug, and you kind of calmed my nerves a little bit whenever you told me about it, like his numbers. So I'm kind of okay with it. And then considering the fact, I know we talked about it earlier, but like we only gave him like, I think wasn't it like a 3rd and 4th round pick, and they're both conditional.
Yeah.
I guess I'm okay with it, but you know.
Yeah, the one condition is he goes, the 3rd becomes a 2nd. The 3rd becomes a 2nd if Pittsburgh reaches the Stanley Cup final, and the 4th becomes a 3rd if he plays next year. If he plays in 50 games next year, which, given the situation, I see no way that happens. I think if they do go in,
now does that 50 games include the playoffs?
No, 50 regular season games.
Oh, that you said next season. You said next season.
Next season. Now,
yeah, no, I don't think he's sticking around.
Yeah, Ron Hextall just said that they believe that Malkin will return to game action before the end of the regular season.
Yep. He's looking at the thing right now from Penn's inside scoop.
And even worse, Brandon Tanev is out until playoffs. So that sucks, you know. It looks like the Pens are done. It looks like that.
From what Rutherford said,
I guess Carter was in a good mood.
Said, Kapanen should be back within the next 10, 14 days.
Well, that's a positive. You know, the truth is if they're able to get Malkin and Kapanen back, I'm cool with whatever else happens. Tanev's very important to the roster, but there's no reason that Frederick Gaudreau can't play that role until it's time for him to come back.
Right.
You know, I'm going to try and get Nolan to come on here.
Apparently, you remember, Doug, you remember how you were talking about how you wanted Taylor Hall to go to the Maple Leafs?
Yeah.
Apparently, Kyle Dubas didn't even want him.
Yeah, that's bizarre. He's one of those ones, man. I just don't understand it. Like, he says that he's an analytics GM, but doesn't go out and do something like that to make the team better and gives up a first-round draft pick for, a grit guy. So it's Vrana, Panik, a first and a second for Anthony Mantha. That's official from Pierre LeBrun. It sucks to know that the Caps got another big physical forward like that.
A lot to give away for one in return.
Wait, what?
A lot to give away for one in return.
Hang on a second, Johnny. What were you saying?
Isn't he? Oh God.
Sorry.
Hextall just said this. This is coming in from the Penguins Twitter account. There's nothing else coming. We weren't really close on anything else. We dabbled in some things and had a couple calls about some of our players, but we felt good about our team. So, if anything, it's just going to be minor league deals for the rest of the if the Penguins do get something, it's going to be very low under the radar.
Yeah. So, TK, what were you saying?
I said it's a lot to give away for Washington to receive just one in return. I think like Peyton was saying, at least one more thing, possibly a pick to send away with everybody else to get back with Anthony Mantha. But it is what it is.
You got to keep in mind they basically did gain an asset on top of Mantha by getting rid of Richard Panik's contract, so
right.
they could squeeze Mantha in.
Yeah.
Like that's something.
Are they that strapped to the ceiling?
Oh yeah, they're strapped hardcore because they have some really bad contracts. Like,
looking at some fan tweets and someone was joking about Chara getting traded back to Boston. I'm like, yeah, in what universe is that happening?
Yeah, like Dmitry Orlov's contract's really bad. They just paid Justin Schultz $4 million. Nick Jensen makes almost $3 million. He's not really that great. So yeah, craziness. Just absolute insanity. My thing is like they still have to pay Obi in the summer. Like,
if he doesn't retire.
Obi's not retiring.
Dude, Obi's gonna play till he's like 40. Like,
no,
quite literally.
Next Yager. He'll play till he's 45, 46, and then retire in the KHL.
So with Obi, I'm gonna tell you how this is gonna go down. He's gonna play until he breaks the goal record. He's gonna retire from the NHL, and then he's gonna go break all the scoring records in the KHL because they're fairly attainable. But yeah, it's official now from the Caps Twitter. Mantha for Vrana, Panik, a 2021 first and a 2022 second. Something's telling me that's going to be the only thing that we get.
It's big.
Trade wise. What?
Meaning only thing we get that's big?
Yeah, or even that's like worth talking about. Not really sure what else could potentially be out there, honestly. It's pretty nuts. I also just think it's wild that the biggest trade of the day came right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't believe that. but yeah, the nice thing is that Verona left the Caps. He was a Pens killer for the Pens. He was a real pain. He had 7 goals in 16 career games. But Bob Pompiani just tweeted this. He said it looks like a great deal for the Red Wings longer term. I couldn't agree more. You know,
I like the trade. I honestly like the trade. I do.
Yeah, this is one of those
Especially
rare
for
ones.
Red Wings.
Obviously, you know, we make fun of Jim Rutherford for saying you need to find a deal that works for both sides, but I think this works really well for both sides. You know, the Caps, they get another guy who could be a top 9 contributor and be really good on their power play for the next 3 years after this. And then, you know, Steve Yzerman in Detroit just keeps stacking up assets, man. Like, they are going to be loaded in a couple years here. It's just a matter of, you know, it's a matter of keeping Larkin engaged and being able to draft another big time center. Because the issue is they've never really like won the draft lottery or got like a second overall pick where they can get a center. So like, you know, they've been getting a lot of good depth wingers and things like that. And I mean, they have the wingers. You know, Philip Zadina is going to be fantastic. Lucas Raymond's going to be really good. You know, guys like that, and they still have wild cards like Evgeny Svechnikov could potentially work out for them. You never know. And I mean, their defense is in place. Like, it's very much in place. Like, they have Cholowski, they have Hronek. They're pretty loaded on defense, and then they obviously Peyton, they have more at Cedar. So
Cedar,
you know,
2019 6th overall pick.
Yep.
I'm
But
whenever he got drafted that high, my jaw hit the floor. There were so many other options they could have picked, and they chose him. So I guess maybe the Red Wings scouting saw something in him, and they decided to pick him up. So we can only hope that that's true.
Yeah, it was a big time reach.
I'm not saying he's bad by any means, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I think they might have saw something in him that no one else really saw.
Yeah, and they could have had a lot more higher rated players in the draft than what Cedar was.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here.
Any other news on the trade front?
This from 937 The Fans said the chemistry. Well, this was from Hextall's interview press conference. Chemistry has been a big topic of conversation. It changes a lot as in the locker room. I know Carter will be a good guy and a good teammate on and off the ice. This will give the team a big boost. It's from Hextall about 5 minutes ago.
I'm just
All right,
trying
guys,
to refresh Twitter.
Yeah, we're probably going to just keep this going until 4:00 here and then sign out. But I thought this was pretty good. I really enjoyed doing this with you guys. I think we're very much in a good spot to like make this into its own thing. like I wanted to. So, but yeah, the big thing right now is Mantha going to Washington. I don't like it.
That's definitely the biggest trade of the day.
It is, but Danny had a great tweet about it. He said, "Call me crazy, but spending a first and a second on Ponick to make a marginal upgrade from Vrana to Mantha is insane." I mean, it's true. Like, the only big difference between Vrana and Mantha is the fact that Mantha's more of a power forward and Vrana's just a pure sniper.
Yeah.
We also look at the ones that happened beforehand too. That we never mentioned or whatnot. We were looking at Riley Nash heading to Toronto, and Patrick Nemeth coming back to the Avalanche again.
Yeah, I really like the Nemeth trade for Colorado because he gives them a depth defenseman.
Yeah.
I know their third pairing, even though they've been okay, looks rough on paper right now. It's Kyle Burrows and I think Jacob McDonald. It's like with Johnson out and a couple guys not being ready yet, it's been kind of difficult for him. But yeah, I think it's a good depth piece. He can play both sides. He can play both left and right sides, so it doesn't really matter. There's no preference there. You can play wherever. And with Riley Nash, he's going to be on LTIR the rest of the year. That just expanded the Leafs LTIR pool to see if they wanted to make another move, which outside of Ben Hutton sounds like it's going to be a no. Sounds like there's really nothing else going on here. But yeah, I think, the nice thing about it is the Penguins did really good today. They they did really good last night and today. They didn't do anything stupid. I don't think we're going to get a last second trade where we get some random goon who doesn't deserve a lineup spot. So that's a big positive for me, at least in my opinion. I think that's huge. It's a huge victory.
I don't know how much this really matters. I don't really think it matters a whole lot, but with the Eric Goodbranson trade, the Senators, along with the 7th round pick, they got Brandon Fortuano or Swando, or I don't know how to say it.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably just like an AHL player.
Yeah, it's just an extra. Like I said, I don't know how much it matters. Probably doesn't matter at all, but
it's an extra body. Sam Bennett getting 2 second round or getting a 2nd round pick and a 2nd round player is hilarious.
Horrendous.
Absolutely horrendous. That's just insane to me. That people view him that highly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens. That's what happens.
I'm glad he didn't come here, though. That would have been.
I am too. That was in the back of my mind as well. I was thinking to myself, oh boy, they're gonna blow assets on Ben Hutton or on Sam Bennett.
I wouldn't be surprised if they blew assets on Ben Hutton.
Ben Hutton isn't bad though.
Is he not?
No,
I always thought I never really liked him.
He's not great, but he's semi-nice with it. It's all comes down to deployment and who he's playing with. I thought he did really good in LA last year.
I didn't even know he played in LA. I don't even know he went to LA.
Yeah, he played in LA last year. Because remember, for the longest time, he didn't sign with anybody. The Canucks non-tendered him, and he just kind of sat there for a while. But
Hall's not looking for a spotlight. He's looking for a contract extension already from Boston.
Yeah, I think, I just don't feel like there's good fit for him to play there or play somewhere in that lineup. Because the thing we never brought up whenever we had Smitty on was Andre Kasha still has to come back into that lineup, and yeah, they're gonna be loaded. They're gonna have a really, really good player on their fourth line. I just don't know who. But yeah, I think Hall could be okay if he kind of like just comes in and does like what Phil Kessel did in Pittsburgh, where he just flies under the radar and just plays.
He needs to do something because he's got to turn his game around. He's got to like prove to Boston that like.
Yeah, and I think he will, because like
I think he will too.
Even though he's not going to be playing with that perfection line, he's going to be with them on the power play, no doubt. So there's always that. But yeah, let's look through Twitter one more time and see if anything else pops in.
What I'm looking at right now. I'm seeing a bunch of stuff from that press conference with Hextall. Anything else? You guys getting anything?
No, I'm not seeing Twitter right now.
I'm not either. The Canucks officially announced Madison Billy.
That's it.
Yeah. 1 minute ago.
The Minnesota game has been postponed due to events going up that way.
Picture of Ifalo signing his contract. RIP.
Yeah, that sucks. I wanted him so bad, dude. I wanted him so bad.
I know you did.
You know what's going to happen, though, guys, is we're going to get off the air, and one more deal is going to come in, and it's going to be like, this couldn't have happened like 10, 15 minutes sooner.
Yeah.
I guess we won't be able to do anything about it.
Yeah. So my buddy just messaged me. I was going to have him on as a last-ditch effort, but he can't come on due to work. He just wanted to say that he thinks Jeff Carter's an upgraded version of Patrick Marleau, and it's going to work out exponentially better due to Carter's size and shooting ability still.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Jeff Carter to get here. The fact that his first game is going to be
Thursday
against Philadelphia is going to be hilarious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is ironic, I believe, is the term we would use for this.
Yeah, I feel like the only two people outside of like some of the guests we had on today that truly remembered Jeff Carter at his peak are probably me and Johnny. Because, like, dude, he was filthy in Philly.
He was the biggest.
I don't really remember him playing.
Yeah, dude. He played with well, there was a time where it was him, Richards, and Joffrey Lupul on a line together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
And they just
up wing, Richards up the middle, and Carter on the right.
Yep. Because even though Carter could play center, you know, he kind of did both, wing and center. Which is crazy because I can't even remember who they played as their second line center during those stretches, Johnny. Oh wait, they had Danny Briere.
No, this was yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they had Danny Briere, so it didn't matter. They were able to play him up like that, Carter. But man, I don't know. This was the perfect way to cap off a nice weekend, though. Let me tell you.
Yeah, this was nice.
Yeah. Plus, I actually got to see you guys in person, so it was awesome. Real awesome.
So I don't think there's going to be any more trades today. So
yeah, either do I. So
yeah, Twitter's been quiet for about 10 minutes now.
That's usually a sign it's done. We're done.
Yeah, it's over. But yeah, this was fun. One last time, I want to give a shout out to Nick, Gabe, Danny, and Smitty for coming on.
We appreciate all of you.
Yeah, like we appreciate all you guys more than you'll ever know, because you guys were a big part of this, and there were some of them that really kind of took the reins and kind of helped like quarterback it. Like there was a time where Smitty was going, and I kind of gave him a look, and I was like, damn, like he's really like on one right now. You know, kind of like just like running the show here a little bit because it got quiet and we needed talking points. So shout out to them. Be sure to check out all their content. But yeah, guys, this was our 2021 NHL trade deadline live stream. So thank you all for watching, and just wait until until this pops up on CUTV. But thank you all for watching, and I think after today, I feel like we can say that we got something big coming in the future.
I agree.
Agreed.